Amy, would you please call the roll for us?
Tom Pagatti.
Here.
John Sienkiewicz.
Here.
Charlie Folletti. John Fletcher.
Here.
Larry Happ.
Here.
Bart Hartauer. Tyler Ketter. Don Speyer. Nicole Gurdon. Here. Lou Tomsha. Mike Nazlowski.
Here.
Sam McNeely.
Here.
Jim Cleary.
Here.
Thank you.
We have a quorum, Amy?
Yep.
Okay, good. Last time we didn't, so. Okay. I want to welcome everybody here. The procedure we're going to use is the procedure we always use. All right? We didn't pull out something special for tonight. This is how all the planning commission meetings are held. Okay? What we're going to act on tonight is a petition for granting of a rezoning and special use permit by Illinois Cement on land owned by Frank Bedanko or a trust, a Bedanko trust. Okay, so we're referred to one party as Bedanko, the other one as Illinois Cement. Illinois Cement, LLC, okay, we'll call them Illinois Cement. There's 4 parcels that we're going to act on. We're going to get them up here on the map as we go along. If you can't see it or you have a question, you can ask and Brad will get us fixed up with that map, right? All right. There were signs out there on the parcels, so if you drove by, you could identify each of the 4 parcels that we're going to hopefully make a recommendation on tonight. All right. To make the process a little smoother, I'm going to ask motion from the Planning Commission to waive the reading of all the legal description of the property, unless, you know, Brian Brown would know, but nobody else is going to have that mean anything to us. All right. We're going to identify him as a parcel. And once again, there was a sign on them so you can identify what they are. If you're not sure where they are, you can go ahead and ask, you know, is it here, is it there? So, okay. So I'd like to have somebody make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we set aside the readings and description of the area and just put the minutes into the meeting.
Mr. Happ, are you also making that part of the motion to include a copy of the petition that was filed that would also
Yes, I am.
have it in the application, and also the notice, the public notice that went in the newspaper?
Yes.
Be exhibits, they could be exhibits 1 and 2 respectively.
Yeah, so that covers everything, Jim, right? The notice, the petition, and the legal description of the parcels.
Those are
Okay.
all, the legal descriptions are part of the application, I believe, and definitely part of the notice. So we have a motion.
We have a motion, second.
I'll second. Second.
Amy, pick somebody out.
John.
Yeah, John spoke and Rose's hand up there. Okay. The next motion I'd like to make.
You want to vote on? You have to vote on.
Oh, sorry. Do we need a roll call, Jim?
Wouldn't hurt.
Okay, Amy, please.
Yes. Tom Pagani,
Yes.
John Sinkowitz,
Yes.
John Fletcher,
Yes.
Larry Half,
Yes.
Nicole Gurdon,
Yes.
Mike Nazlowski,
Yes.
Sam McNeely,
Yes.
Jim Cleary.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. The next motion I'd like is for us to be able to discuss all 4 parcels at the same time. Rather than, okay, we'll get all our questions on number 1 and then with questions on number 2 and give us a presentation on 1 and 2 and 3. So we're putting them together. You are then able to ask a question about one parcel. You can separate and bring out a parcel. But we're not just, if we have a motion, we're not just going to discuss 1 and then 2 and then 3.
Chairman, before we make a motion, are we still gonna vote separate on each parcel?
That's a question,
That
Jim.
depends, let's wait and see how the process goes.
Yeah, that's, Jim and I talked about it. It's kind of for grabs if, we'll see how it goes, I guess would be the best. That was a good question though, Larry. Would somebody like to make a motion to take all the parcels together?
I'll make a motion
John,
to take all the parcels 1 through 4 as one whole.
second.
I'll second.
Sam? Amy?
Roll call on that. Tom Pagani,
Yes.
John Sinkowitz,
Yes.
John Fletcher,
Yes.
Larry Half,
Yes.
Nicole Gurdon,
Yes.
Mike Nazlowski,
Yes.
Sam McNeely,
Yes.
Jim Cleary.
Yes.
Okay. Here's the ground rules, how we run the meeting. And once again, this is how we do it every time. This isn't a special, kind of meeting we're going to run. Okay. The first is anybody that gives testimony, I'd ask you to raise your hand and swear that everything you say is going to be the truth. We'll also ask you to identify yourself. Even you, John, there might be one person that doesn't know who you are, but identify yourself. Do we have a number system still?
Yeah, we have 8 people looking to make public comment tonight. And I've
Okay,
advised everyone that if you did take a number and you prefer not to make public comment, you can just dial in or say no comment when your number's called.
And in addition to comment, they are entitled to testify for or against.
right. Yeah, you can ask
And
questions.
also ask questions.
Yeah, you can ask questions, but you can also make testimony, as Jim said. Your Honor?
Chairman, where did they go to speak?
They're going to sit in Jim McFederin's chair with microphone there. Yep, the empty chair on the side.
Yeah, and speak into the microphone, right? Yeah. That way everybody can hear the questions or the comments. Okay. The next thing is the petitioners will make their proposal. Somebody or more than one will state their case to have the special use permit in rezoning the ground. Okay? Whoever it is, and it can, can be more than one, and maybe there's a question that somebody else knows the answer better than the person who's currently making a presentation. All you have to do is, say, I'll handle that question, identify yourself, swear everything you're gonna say is the truth, and then you can go ahead and make your comments, okay? After that, the members of the planning commission get first dibs on asking the questions. Okay? So up here, we can ask any question to anybody who testified. All right? And then the next in line would be the city officials, which would be Jim and Brian, Mayor Grove. Okay, I don't know if somebody's hiding behind a post there or not, but all right. Then we'll give everybody in the general public or audience, whatever you want to call yourself, then you can ask a question or make comments. You know, come up to the microphone, identify yourself, and state, you know, what you want to say or the question you want to ask. The planning commission can then ask questions of you. All right. So everybody here, either if they make a comment or like sometimes we'll ask Brian Brown something, you know, he didn't make a comment, but we'll ask him a question. Okay. So the planning commission can also question anybody that goes up and testifies. Okay. When I say everybody will have a chance to be heard, I sincerely mean it, but it would be nice if we don't have the same redundant question. Okay? And that we'll see how it, you know, see how it progresses too. Okay? Once again, anybody who in the audience who wants to make a comment, so you can be a witness to what is said here, or you can ask a question. So you really have a couple options on how you can address what you want to say. And like I say, keep in mind, then we can ask questions. All right?
And as far as, they don't need to be sworn in unless they're testifying.
Right.
If they're just asking.
Yeah, if you're asking a question. All right. After this discussion and questioning goes on, we'll see how it goes if the planning commission wants to have, you know, a small discussion among themselves before there's any motion made or any vote taking. We'll see how that goes. Okay. Usually they have enough opportunity to ask any questions, you know, beforehand, so the discussion usually doesn't happen, but we reserve the right to have it. Okay? As we go forward, if the planning commission wants to modify how we're moving forward, they also have that opportunity. Okay? So basically, there's the presentation, questions by the planning commission, questions or comments by city officials, and then the audience has the same rights as we do. All right. Keep in mind, our recommendation is only a recommendation. All right. The city council has the ultimate say. All right. Any questions before we proceed from the general public, the planning commission knows what they're doing, trust me. Okay? John, who's gonna make the presentation?
Eric?
Okay, Eric, you wanna go to the mic? Oh, you guys got a microphone. Okay, introduce yourself, speak into the microphone, and make your presentation. Brett, you're coordinating with them, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Right now.
okay.
So while he's getting that pulled up, my name's Eric Lovgren. I'm an employee at Illinois Cement. I'm the optimization manager. I've been there a little short of 19 years now. What we'll have is we'll have a brief overview presentation just to highlight the properties and a little bit of info about the company. So again, we are part of Eagle Materials. You see the logo for Eagle Materials in the top right. We're a wholly owned subsidiary of them. They're a 100% US based company. They've got cement, aggregate, wallboard, and gypsum plants all across the continental US. Go to the next slide, please. So a brief history and background. As is current fashion, as Illinois Cement Company has been in operation since 1972. As many know in the community, the predecessors date back to the 19th century. The primary function for the Dimmick Quarry that we're addressing tonight is to provide limestone. Limestone is a basic raw material. It's necessary to ensure the viability of our operation. Limestone is one of the four main ingredients in cement making, and it's the most prevalent ingredient. Chemically speaking, it's called calcium carbonate is what's in the limestone. So it's essential for us for budgeting purposes, for capital investment and planning. A little bit more recent statistics about Illinois Cement Company. They are a long-time contributor to the Salle in the Illinois Valley. Right now, we've got approximately 170 employees. I believe the last time that we presented in 2018, we were at 159 employees. Payroll today exceeds 17 million. Annual real estate taxes are approximately 780,000. The most recent year, when we looked back, was about 314,000 contributed in annual utility taxes. And then part of the last agreement was the tipping fee, and that's averaged about $98,000 for an annual average in tipping fees. Some other items that have been brought up in the past that we've been a part of with the city include Rotary Park, Prairie Park, the wastewater facility, and those are all on ICC reclaimed quarry property. We're seeking approval for these requests to help ensure our long-term viability. So the image you see up there now is our existing Dimmick Quarry footprint. The section with the hash lines on the far right is kind of a yellowish greenish color. That's an area that won't be mined. That's the east side of the Little Vermilion River Valley. The purple area is our most recently mined out areas. And then to the left of that, the hash lines are existing permitted area. The red outline to the north and to the west include additional properties that were considered in the 2018 request. So in total, with 1,070 acres, I believe the 2018 request involved approximately 360 acres that had a combination of annexing and zoning and special use permits that were granted at that time. This map, the red outline, is the Bedenko site layout. As I said, there are 4 parcels. I don't think there's going to be a way to zoom in. And then the blue lettering, that is the existing neighboring landowners as well. So this parcel, as you'll see, it's got access at 3 points as it sits right now. On the north end off of North 31st Road, on the east side off of East 3rd Road, and then on the south end, I don't recall the road split name there between Peru and LaSalle, but right next to Interstate 80, there is a gateway into the property there as well. This next slide is another outline, and this one I just felt it was important to add this to make it clear that when you look at these parcels on the LaSalle County GIS website, it does show that section south of Interstate 80. We are not seeking to acquire that. That is not a part of the option that we have with Mr. Bedenko. So there's a little sliver of property that is on the southeast side of Interstate 80 there that is not included in this request. So a little bit about the mining background. So part of our mining, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources controls the permitting and issues the actual mine permits. They regulate and enforce the actions which govern the mining industry throughout Illinois. They have to approve your mine operations plan, including the reclamation plan. In the mining plan, they issued permits on a 10-year basis. There's a permit application process, and they set the bonding requirements as well to guarantee that the company will meet their reclamation requirements. On the bonding side, they establish the bonding based on the mining permit. The release can occur in stages as land is reclaimed. So for example, anything that's out at the old quarry where Rotary Park is and Prairie Park are now, that'll have to go through a reclamation process. DNR came out and did multiple inspections of the site before they were willing to release it and return the bond money. Some of the reclamation highlights, there's slopes not greater than 30%, over 40 feet must be terraced, stabilized soil with adequate drainage must be provided as well. And they come out and do inspections on that as well. Our reclamation right now, what's required of us is that we return the top layer to pasture grasses with no rutting. IDNR comes out and they do 2 inspections a year. And the way we mine with an open pit is we're continuously working on the reclamation process. As we remove the overburden, as we worked our way west and north, as you guys have seen, the overburden gets moved back to the east side and goes over top of what we already mined the limestone from. So that's just the brief overview we had. At this point, I will say we do have some other supplemental materials. If the discussion dictates that we need them, then we can pull them up as needed. So Brent's got some of that material. So, and then also to let everyone know, I've got Sean Magis, our plant manager. A lot of you that were here before for the last round, Jerry Crittenden was the plant manager at that time, and he would have been the one presenting with Wayne Emmer. Wayne has since retired, and Jerry has moved on to run another plant in Kentucky, and Sean has taken over his role, just so you guys are aware who else is sitting up here. So that's what we have to start with. So I'll turn it back over to you, Chairman.
Anything else to add at your table, John?
No.
No? Okay, we'll open it up to questions from the Planning Commission. I have one question, and that's the small strip of ground that is south of the Porter residence, and I'm not sure who the person on the other side of that,
Murdoch, yes.
That thin strip there. I know I've been told that you don't plan on mining that strip between the 2 homes. If I was there, I'd be a little nervous, okay? I believe you people, okay? But, they could be sold at any time, and then the next owner might have a different idea. How would that be protected from mining?
If I could
John?
say something before Eric answers that. That strip in there is really made up of part of 2 of the larger parcels. If you could pull up the yellow one again. That's just one of them. Okay, if you back up to see the way that one goes? The strip is at the top, like the handle of a pot. So that's really part of a larger parcel. The other one has the same characteristic, yep, that was it, right there. And the reason for those is if those weren't there, the rest of the part of each of those parcels would be landlocked. So that's its way, so that they're not landlocked, that's their exit out to.
So,
So it's really not a separate strip, it's, each part of that strip is part of
Part
the
of the
larger
bigger-
parcel.
so you don't plan on mining it, but you do plan on having a roadway there?
I don't think there's any plan for a roadway, but Eric can.
No, I'll put it on the record there. So from a mining perspective, we wouldn't be able to mine it. Setbacks would not make it feasible to mine it. We wouldn't be allowed to mine it. That stretch, those two pieces combined is about 60 foot wide. From a road perspective, we don't have a plan to put a road there. What we would need for a road, it would be a road wide enough for a semi for a turn radius. And there's no intention. Right now we have our access. We've already talked about our future access to be further north of there. You can't fit a semi turn radius in that 60 foot wide stretch.
So
there's-
it would be landlocked now, John,
If that wasn't part of that,
but in the future, it won't be landlocked without that. Is that correct?
well, with it, it won't be landlocked.
Yeah, but if they're not driving in or out of there,
It's not gonna be used,
no.
no.
So
But depending on, in the future, whatever happens to that property, after the mining is over, if it's ever mined, it may be necessary, there's, a lake back there or something that would be non-mining type of use, come in or out, or a house site, or,
So that,
I was not here to explain why that was that way, but I think he bought that off of someone with the idea that they might want to use that as a home site or two. And maybe that'll be the future use, that's, time will have to tell, but it won't be used for mining
That-
purposes.
that property by itself now would be landlocked without that strip.
Yeah, both of those parts.
But after, when you start mining, you're gonna have another access somewhere, correct? So that strip wouldn't be necessary?
not for a roadway. We would
But-
want that as part of the purchase, of course. So to
But
give
you
some-
wanna
to give some back-
retain you wanna retain that ground for some,
we never know what the
potential future use.
Yeah, we never know what the future holds. If I could comment, Mr. Bedanko has worked well with us on letting us know the agreements he had in place with some of these landowners. So, for example, on the north side of that yellow, there's about an acre that gets used for, I believe, some alfalfa. It's Mr. Bedanko's property. He also has, I believe, the building that's on his property that we're looking to acquire and get rezoned and special use permit. The neighbor mows that. I would like to make clear that Illinois Cement, I believe, has done a really good job in the past of anything that someone had set up with neighbors, including working with existing farmers, existing tenants that farm, existing owners, or the local community around. We've, I believe, done a very diligent job of working with them and taking care of what agreements were in place and making sure that we honor those agreements. There's no intention here to put a roadway in there. There's no intention to fence it off. No intention to block it off. The two households take care of the yards right now.
They cut the grass for
They
you.
cut the grass, and I think the one has an alfalfa plot behind it. So yeah, there's no plans to use that other than to own it. And we would have to address that with those owners, of course.
But there would also be no plans to sell it to them, let's say. And I'm not saying they wanna buy it. I'm just,
Not at this
you
time,
wish
no.
to retain that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Larry?
If this all passes, Eric, what's your timetable of when you would start up there?
Undetermined, so the main portion of this is the far north end of the property. it provides us the western, I guess, our western gateway to continue to move west and north. There is, I guess, get it out right up front. If you look at the layout of that property, it's conceivable that we could mine limestone on the south side of the, I believe it's pronounced Sheaf or Schiff and O'Connell properties that are still there. It is physically possible that we could do that. With that layout, it's not a likely scenario at the moment because it would involve digging all the way down to the top of the limestone in a square with a box cut versus what we do now, which is mine through an open face. Long term, we would like to be able to mine with an open face and keep working our way in that direction. It's usually not viable to go that deep and uncover limestone that's that far underground with a box cut. The cost is exceptionally high. But long term, it would be in our plans to utilize whatever we would acquire. So right now, I think when this was presented back in 2018, with that bypass road, just to give an impression on what an area works for us, is that was planned to last for about 10 years, the actual limestone. Of course, the overburden stripping advances out in front of the limestone, but so I think that bypass section was about 70 acres plus the width of the East Third roadway. So that was an 8 to 10 year window was what we expected to get out of that section. So.
Well, that answers my question. Just wanted to know basically what the timeline was on all that. And also, the roads that are existing out there by those homes, infrastructure wise, will they be able to maintain all the trucks in that, or will they need to be modified?
Where we are right now, the existing East Third is fine to handle that traffic and will continue to go in at that existing entrance. As we move towards the future, we've had some preliminary discussion about East Third Road. If we have to put a new entrance into the west side of East Third, then we will have to extend the 80,000 pound roadway at some point in the future.
Thank you.
John?
Have you drilled that area to the far south for the quality of the rock?
We have.
And how far is the rock in that area?
How far down?
Yeah.
70 to 80 feet down.
So it stays pretty consistent with that whole side of the quarry.
Yeah, the southern and western
What is the quality of the rock though? I'm sure you took drilling samples. I said, I'm sure you took drilling samples.
We did. It's sufficient to be used in our cement making process. As far as how high a quality, how low a quality, you were around it longer than I was. We take
just wondering what the rock.
To give some perspective, just so people understand, there's 70 acres there that we're looking at, and it's got 5 holes poked in it that are 2 inches in diameter. So we extrapolate as best we can, but we have no guarantees in our business. So it's sufficient to be used in our process. As far as how high a quality, yet to be determined is the best way I can put it.
Anybody else on this side? How about this side? No questions?
You say you're starting from the north and working south, correct? How many years will it take to get to the south side? Like maybe 20 years or?
Right now, we would focus solely on our existing permitted area, which in that earlier diagram, I think it had the hash marks in it. So in this case, we wouldn't be able to mine through an open face without, as you can see, adding additional properties. So currently, this would leave us so that we would focus on mining to the west there. We wouldn't mine south through that narrow strip. At the west end of the Schiff and O'Connell properties, we wouldn't be able to mine through that. There's not sufficient space to mine with an open face through that. The setbacks will actually cut that little section off from mining.
Eric, I believe you said it, and it's nothing we're gonna act on. It's just, I wanna confirm, I think, something you already said. There's other parcels of property in that area that you would eventually or potentially like to acquire because that rock keeps going? Am I correct, or did I put words in your mouth?
No, you didn't put words in my mouth. I think if everyone here looks at the layout of where our pit is now, the properties we own, it does show itself, yes. So if you look at the directions that we've acquired, everyone can see on the map what Illinois Cement does own and what they don't own. So yeah, that's probably an accurate statement, yes.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on the planning commission? Any city official questions at all? None? Okay,
One more time. Are you blasting both ends of that quarry from north to south to mix that quality of the rock?
We have done that the last few years, John, but in the last year or so, as we've moved west inside of that bypass road, the operating face has gotten pretty narrow. So we don't have that opportunity as often. As we keep pushing west in that inside of that bypass road, it shrinks north to south by about half. So essentially we're just jumping back from the north side of our center ramp to the south side. So, but yeah, it's mixed as best we can. So pretty much we have two halves now is what we're down to. We had it in thirds a couple years ago, but it's down to two halves for that bypass section.
okay.
There's only two people in the room that understood that.
He's shaking his head yes, John, so, okay, now we'll open it up to the general public. Remember,
I have two questions first.
Jim, oh, sorry.
What is your timetable if it were granted to acquiring title from the Bedankos? What is the time frame? Because obviously from the city standpoint, as was done in 2018, it was contingent on if it were granted, when you would acquire, you have to acquire title. Obviously, you don't need a special use permit for property you don't end up buying. What's the expected time frame there you'd be looking at?
I think Mr. Bedanko's waiting for the closing fairly soon.
So it would be within 120 days then should be safe?
I would assume, yeah, I think there's.
All right. And then the other question is, in 2018, there was a discussion and potential consideration, potential well agreement for certain landowners in the area. Is that something that would still be potentially considered if it were appropriate here?
Yes, it will, and we can present on that too if it's requested. I actually have that ready to go tonight if you guys want to see it.
I think it would be helpful to the public to see.
Okay. We have,
Did most of you get the well agreement with? No. Yeah, you did, I think you said, yeah, I think you said that. I don't know if anybody else has seen it, okay.
Well, if there are members of the public, would you like to see it, or is that not something you'd be interested in? Okay.
Yeah, we have everybody's address that was on the list, for this, purpose, so we can, get that mailed out quickly.
Okay, anything else once again? If not, we'll open it up to the general public. And remember, if you're just gonna ask a question, we'd still like you to identify yourself. Okay? But if you're gonna make a statement or give testimony, then we'd ask you to come to the microphone and swear that everything you're gonna say is the truth, and then tell us who you are, where you're from, and then you can go on with your testimony. If you are gonna ask a question, I'd ask you to either go to the microphone or speak loud enough that we can hear the question.
Yeah, we do need you to use the microphone just for the purposes of the recording.
All right.
We can start by just going off of public.
Do we have a list of
We have-
people that want?
We have numbers out there right now. I've
Okay.
advised everyone if they're interested in making comment today to find me to get a number. I think I've spoken with all of you. If not, you can certainly still ask a question at the end here. But we'll start with commenter number 1. if you'd like to make a comment, you can go to the chair over there. I'll make sure the microphone's on. I'll walk over there with you and we can begin.
Thanks, Brett.
I'm Jim Orsini. I live on East Third Road. I was kind of curious if you were going to be putting tunnels in or doing mining underground, because it made big problems over in Oglesby with the where they had collapses, or you said all going to be open pit.
It's the way our mine's set up in the deposit, it's all open pit there for the deposit that we're going after, so.
Are you gonna use East Third Road for a haul road? Are you gonna change, maybe do something different?
For the foreseeable future, the semis will continue on East Third Road as they are now.
Is there something you can do about the dust?
We will continue with what we're using. We've got sweepers that run while we're trucking, and then weather permitting.
I showed you a picture of the windows on the house. I just cleaned them a month ago. It looks like mud running down the windows. When they come down the road with the sweeper, they turn at the pet shop. And when they turn, it puts a huge cloud of dust out every time. And I talked to Jay about it. And he had the guys raise the brooms when they did the turn there to stop the dust. And what happens is when they make that turn, the air comes underneath the bridge and it blows it right back at the house.
Where's your house?
It was Mickey Diamond's house. It's
Okay.
3019. First house. I can show you pictures of the windows. I just cleaned them at the last meeting. After the last meeting, I cleaned the windows. And I can show you a picture of it. Took it this morning. They don't know they hurt the windows. It hurts the seals that are in the windows, the brush seals. It gums them all up, and then the windows leak. So I'm probably gonna have to go in and change all the brush seals in the windows. Thank you.
Would public commenter number 2 like to take the microphone?
Either question or testimony.
Question, maybe a question and testimony.
How about going to the microphone? You'll be prepared. And remember, if you're gonna give testimony, then you have to swear that everything you're saying is the truth.
Well, yes, I will swear that everything I'm going to say is the truth. And I didn't quite catch, my question was, since I'm living there and I'm gonna be affected by you on 2 more sides of me. The trucks are already going down the road and I'm not happy with that. So then mine will be on 2 more sides of me. So when do you think they'll mind that? Oh, I'll tell them now. I'm sorry, I did forget to say my name too. I'm Kathy Bastick. I live in the big white farmhouse. It's a house I grew up in. My husband and I went back there, and I've been living there for 31 years now. And 25 years of that, we've had the trucks going up and down the road. So I am really concerned that I will have the mine on 2 more sides of me now, when I'm already having problems with you just going up and down the road. So when do you think you would actually start mining that property? In my lifetime?
if he's gonna speak, could you please give him the microphone and he's gonna testify, he should be sworn
Yeah,
in.
what I was trying to say is that we could maybe zoom it out, just, let Eric have talk to.
Brandon, if we could pull up in the presentation, that map,
Color coded one.
the color coded one. And if you, I don't know if you can zoom in on that. So from that perspective, I guess it's kind of an aqua colored with that area right there. That's our existing permitted area. So in order for us to reach down to where you're located, the little pond on the Bedanko property is in view at the bottom. I know this doesn't have the outline of the Bedanko property. We would have to finish mining out that existing permitted area and then make a decision that we would go down to the south of the properties we don't own. And as I said, it wouldn't be a feasible plan for us to go down there, and basically we would have to cut all the way down from all four sides rather than work through an open face. So an exact timeline, I don't have one. I can tell you that what you see in the shaded area there, as I said, the road area, we expect it to be 8 to 10 years. We expect that entire shaded area to be about a 15 to 20 year process. Now we won't mine it out to a square, to all square edges before we would, in effect, request a new mining permit from the Department of Natural Resources. But that's the timeline for that area. That's what I can speak to at this point. What we plan in the future from that, I can't speak to with certainty at this moment. I don't want to.
And you did say, there was one comment you said when you were giving your presentation that this was necessary for the mine to be viable. Is it really necessary to take that property for the mine to be viable? I mean, this is right behind the houses. I don't know why you need to go in there.
Our objective is to continue to acquire reserves that keeps the plant viable.
So you're going to eventually try to buy us all out?
Gotcha. Well, first of all, one thing is Mr. Bedanko deal was you buy it all or you don't get it, any of it. There's other parts besides the stuff behind your house that's gonna be more important strategically going forth. That stuff behind your house could be important someday, but the other parts are more strategic to their plan than what's behind your house.
Okay, well, I do want you to know that everybody here to know that I'm against it, against that being zoned mining. I'm not happy with the dust situation either. I even brought some pictures in I was going to pass around, but I don't know if that would really do any good. But I would like to ask you a little bit more about the road and the trucks on it, if that's okay. Okay, so I'm retired, so I see pretty much what's going on the roads all the time. Of course, different times of year, there's more dust, okay? So in really dusty times, and there was a lot of them this summer, I very seldom see the sweepers going out with the water, which does help. And I do not see, I saw one time this year, the wheel wash. One time, and when I saw it, I thought, this is great. There's no dust cloud behind the trucks. I only saw it once. And I really would like to know why you don't do that. I mean, this is people you're affecting. It's not just the viability of the mine. So I'd like to know why you don't use the water more, you don't use the wheel wash. I'm just really disappointed in that. And I'd also like to know, and I really hate being confrontational, I'm sorry, but I just feel like I have to say some of these things. Are you sure that the limestone dust is safe? Because I don't think it is. The limestone dust that we're forced to breathe in, I do not believe it's safe. Can you prove it's safe? Are you going to be setting up some more monitors so that we know and you can show us it is safe to breathe? Because unfortunately, I did look up some things on the internet about the limestone dust, and they say it is not safe. They say the dust is not safe to breathe, and it may have trace elements of silica in it. Do you check for that? I mean, I can read you some of the things I got off the internet, but I'd rather not. They're kind of disturbing.
Well, you're highly regulated, correct?
Yeah. That's me. As Sean Magus, plant manager. As for the dust monitoring, yes, MSHA does do dust monitoring on site on whatever basis they determine, since we are under the Mine Safety Health Administration. If you would like, we can put some area monitor and do to see what's possible to do, but should be able to get either area monitor, for example, potentially set up in your property or something of that nature, that we could do some sampling of the area.
That would be nice. I would like to know if it's safe, because what I'm reading is it is not safe to breathe. And I do have a lung condition that can be caused by dust. I could never prove it was because of breathing this dust, and it can be caused from other things too. But breathing in dust now, I should not be doing. It could be harmful to me. So I really think you need to think more of the people. I've been hearing more about the mine. You need to think of the people on that road too. And I don't think you think about it, but think about us enough. Well, I don't really have too much more to say. I do want to say too, because I don't know if all the people here know exactly how it is out there. But the trucks start running at 5:30 in the morning. A lot of times they don't finish till 12:30 after midnight. There have been days, and because I can watch it, when every truck, the whole day, every truck that goes down the road, there's a big cloud of dust behind it. The sweepers have clouds of dust behind them also, if they're not using water. Oh, and then it's all day long. So if you can imagine all the dust that's being thrown in the air. And I did bring some pictures of what my front porch looked like in about October. And then I also have some pictures of our siding that you can see very clearly where the side that the dust from the mine is coming on. So I will show those to people if anybody would like to see it. But I just think you need to make this more about the people that live on that road and are very inconvenienced. And I think it's become, you have to also consider it's a health risk. The dust is a health risk if it's not monitored right. And I don't believe every day it is. I could almost be positive about that. And I won't read these things that I got off the internet because they're very, very disturbing about what breathing in limestone dust can do to your health. So I think that's all I have to say, but I would like to just pass these pictures around and just look at what I wrote on the back of them. I just really appreciate it. Just like I said, please think of the people on the road when you're doing this. And I think maybe what would make me happy is if you do decide to zone it, if you can at least do the best job you're able to do, which I don't think you are now.
Does the sweepers run nonstop?
No, they don't run. They don't run nonstop.
Who answered no?
They stop at dark, and then they sweep maybe 1 or 2 times till 1 o'clock in the morning. And then, I'm up all the time. And then come 5:30 in the morning, when the sweeper goes down the road for the first time, there's a huge cloud of dust. And it's one all night long. I see it every day.
Question I would have with the sweepers is,
Pardon me?
question I would have with the sweepers is,
What?
my name, I thought we were just,
No, you can go ahead.
Can we have names?
Pardon me,
Can
John?
we have names, please? Names.
Yeah, he should give your name. You don't have, if you're just making a comment.
yeah, that's just a comment.
Yeah.
The dry sweepers were having trouble with the dust, like she says. Why are we taking dry sweepers out there and just kicking the dust up in the air? Is that just to keep the road looking clean? At that point, you're really not caring about the people, you're really caring more about making sure the presentation's good. When the dry sweeper is just going down the road, kicking the dust up in the air for what?
I had video if you want to see it.
Would you want to answer that for us?
So to provide a little background on it, we have a broom sweeper, and it's a vacuum system, much like I believe the city has a couple of them. We also have, actual broom sweepers that are just brooms that are designed just to push the dust off the side, the dust, dirt, mud, whatever it may be. Those broom sweepers that are just a rotary broom, they have a water tank that can have water added to the broom so that when you push the dust off the roadway, which is the main goal is to get it off the roadway, then it can have water added so that it helps it not to become airborne. First and foremost, this time of the year, the broom sweepers don't have the water tanks hooked up. We can't run water this time of the year. Our typical protocols in the fall, we can run the water on the broom into the fall longer till the ground temp gets cold enough. Coming out of the spring, it is a very big challenge. When we get into February and March and you start to see some 50 and 60-degree days, we're still not willing to put water in the brooms because we might still have concrete temperature and ground temperature that's below freezing. And, we can't be the ones responsible for putting water on a roadway and turning it to ice then, because salt doesn't stay on them roads with us sweeping them. I have, to answer Kathy's question that she asked, she didn't get an answer on that first part of that about the brooms. I have had some discussions with them. We believe we're doing well. We always believe there's room for improvement. They brought that concern up to us before about the brooms not running enough after sunset. Typically, we will move to the rotary broom on the afternoon shifts and then make sure we get the roads cleaned off really well to make sure that any residue is not left down there overnight. But the comment was heard loud and clear from them when I visited with them before in person that we needed the water on the broom. And that is supposed to be our protocol when it's available. So we put the water on that rotary broom to make sure that we're not making that airborne. It does present a challenge this time of the year though, because we can't run the water this time of the year.
Last summer, I see them when they're using the yellow sweeper. You said they sprayed the road. I see them spray the road maybe 3, possibly 4 different times last summer when they're using the yellow sweeper. That's not very often.
Can I ask just one more thing? Does the wheel wash work and can you use it?
The wheel wash does work and we use it intermittently, and some of that's come from past discussions we've had. We've had concerns brought to us by the city as well. So we've used the wheel wash constantly, and then the complaint is that we had too much mud on the road. So the vehicles or the semis would go through the wheel wash within the quarry. When they exit the quarry, any water on the semis, the residue would cause possibly mud, or from the tire tread, they would spin out on the road, and then we would have dirtier roads. So we've tried to find a good balance between using the wheel wash versus using the brooms with the water. We can go back either way. We've had this conversation back and forth with some other residents over the last 3 or 4 years.
Would the third, the commenter with number 3 like to take the mic?
I think I can speak pretty loud. If not, I will. But anyway, my name is John Baston.
John, I'm sorry, it's for the people who are viewing, not just here. So if you could go over to the microphone,
Sure.
It would be appreciated.
Sure.
It isn't like in the old days, so we have to respect the point that we've got a larger audience and respect them too.
First of all, I was wondering if you could change that map to where you have the 4 sections that are in question.
Hang on, I'm sure
Yeah,
you can.
that's a good one there.
This one here?
Yes.
Or you want the yellow one?
Or the individual one?
I think that orange one was fairly good. And ours is just the south side, okay, Bastic. But anyway, I've lived there for 30 years with my wife, Kathy, and they're the ones that own most of that property at one time, her family, but over generations, they get smaller all the time, and we're the last ones there. But I'm just wondering why that small strip there, I can't envision you could possibly mine. Not the bottom strip, but the next one up.
it just doesn't seem comprehensible to me that you could actually get a quarry in there. Is that correct or not? Inside the rip, there's Bastic, and we walk it all the time, and it's not very much of a distance in the red there that quarries can actually be in there that small, huh?
Are you talking both sides? What's above you and what's behind you?
Right, I'm talking about like that pie-shaped piece at the bottom.
Yeah, so you're talking about not the rectangle one above, you're talking about the pie shape below.
Right,
Okay.
Are you talking about the railroad right away parcel?
yes, yes.
Okay, so the one that further down is not really on the screen now?
No. Take it
Right under the.
right there where he's got the name Bedenko, just a little bit below there. There's Bastic.
Alright.
And that distance, we walk that all the time from where the property ends to the railroad. And it's small. It's nothing to walk it in 3, 4, or 5 minutes. And I just want to know why they feel it's necessary, outside of the fact that Bedenko wants to sell it. I don't see how you could actually mine in there. Or is that am I imagining or what?
There is sufficient space for us to mine in there.
There is.
And the rationale behind owning the whole property in that area too is that when it is permitted, once it has a special use permit and we apply for a mining permit, that mining permit is based on our property boundaries. So the setbacks that the Department of Natural Resources uses, they're typically based on the depth of the overburden. So how far the rock is underground. They take that depth and they use a multiplier to determine how close you can be to your property border before you start digging down. And then from that point, you're digging down, stripping the overburden, and then it's benched out on top of that. So that's why we always seek to get the whole parcel permitted, so that when the DNR sees that we need that whole parcel to be permitted, because any part that's not that would move the setbacks back even further. So, but there is sufficient space in there to mine.
Is there? Wow. It's hard. It's hard to envision when you see the size of the quarry across the road. But I realize it's not the same. But anyway, at one time, Illinois Cement planned on quarrying. From talking to people there, they were going to run the quarry as far north as they could, and then they were going to shoot west and then head on north. And that's why I'm wondering why they're not planning on heading north and evidently after this offset. Or are you going to turn around and look at the south?
Outside of the permitted area, we're not certain at this point, because one of the things we'll have to contend with in the future is there are 2 natural gas pipelines to the north as well. So those are part of a different discussion that won't get handled here.
Oh, sure. People aren't aware of everything, you know, but let's see. Just in our mind, we don't think it's necessary to grant the zoning change, because I can't envision it could even happen in my lifetime, but I just don't think it's necessary. Why would you, when you can go another direction, north, why even keep this little bit of property? But I just feel that, you know, and they're going to grab up everything they can. I've always heard that, even though it might not be true. But speaking of the water, long time ago even before they moved out there, I saw some guys running a water main out there. And I said, what's a water main for? And he said, well, it's for Illinois Cement. They got to use it for all their trucks and to keep the site clean. And I said, really? I said, well, who's doing this? And they said, the city's doing it. So I said, hard to believe, but so I asked him if I could possibly get my house on city water. They said, yeah, go down and ask for somebody in the city water department, and if he might be able to give you a valve, and you know, if you can get under the road, you'll be able to have your house on city water. And I think I'm the only person that did that. But it's nice because you don't have to worry about wells. But it's also, why did the city do all that when Illinois Cement isn't taking advantage of it? Because it was a good sized pipe, I think. Probably 8 or 10 inch maybe. But this was probably a couple of years before you even moved any equipment into there. So it's probably close to the 30 some years. But I just feel you shouldn't grant them that zoning for mining, because I just don't think it's necessary. I always thought they were looking for something that would dominate the landscape, like the east side of the road. But I guess maybe sometimes you don't have any choices. But I just don't think it's necessary, because we got rights too. I mean, there's only 7 or 8 families out there, and we bought the property because we like country living. But lately it sure hasn't turned out as positive as it used to be. But my opinion is I don't think you should grant them the right to mining. And the choice is up to you. But at one time they had a manager that was real good, and I complained about our siding on our house. My wife has a picture there. And they did it one time, and within 2 years it was back just like the rest of it. And I don't know how you would ever clean it. I have no idea. Maybe white siding wasn't the proper one to use, but if you look at the west side of the house, it's perfectly white. And if you catch that angle, it goes from white to brown or beige. Beige, there's no comparison. And it makes it into the house if you have air conditioning on. It makes it into the house through the windows in the winter. It's there all the time. And we have to live with it. If we have to live with it, I think they should be able to try to do a little more to help us living with this. And that's my point of view. Any questions? No?
I have a question. Do you guys have a chemist or chemistry department at your site that helps you determine some of the air sampling, and maybe you could help them come up with a liquid that could pressure wash the side of those houses?
We have a chemistry department that does the required testing for the cement products. They wouldn't typically work in that area. There are companies out there though that would have products for that reason.
Is there any way to help them determine what products would work?
I think there is. One of my meetings with them, they brought up that had been done in the past, and we hadn't discussed it any further at this point, but it's definitely a conversation that can be had with them personally.
Well, when I did it the one time, they were helpful. And then that head person at Illinois Cement, then he sort of became isolated, and you couldn't even get in to see him without going through 2 or 3 other people, which he isolated.
Is there a liaison for the people that live in this area that they can go to?
We need that.
I'll let you take it then.
So Damien Sad would be typically the person, but under the current circumstances, I think best to go right to me. So I can get contact information to whoever needs it, and go that route. Visit with you and handle it. But typically, Damien is the environmental manager, and then also public relations.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is the dust problem, after the rock gets loaded into the truck and drives down the road? Or is there a dust problem in the quarry also? But
I wouldn't want to comment.
It comes off the load and comes off the road because trucks are dropping mud on the road from the vendors when they're driving in the pit. It falls on the road, when they drive on it and busts it off. And then as they're driving down the road, you can just see the dust coming off the top of the load.
so it's the truck is the problem.
Oh,
But I mean, nobody mentioned, the end loader when it dumps the rock in the truck. Nobody said that's causing a lot of dust. I mean, I don't know. I'm asking.
We don't have all gone up there yet.
Pardon me?
We haven't all been able to go up there yet. We're gonna ask, some of them questions will get asked.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would commenter number 4 like to take the microphone?
Hi, my name's Joe Izzo. Questions we had when we were bringing up about the dust. Is there anything in place right now as far as when you're operating the quarry and the dust is blowing south? Is there a limit to when you have to stop for the dust blowing towards us in your permit?
There's not a specified limit. If you're referring to inside the quarry, right?
Yes.
So we run a water truck. The water we use typically is going to be recycled water out of the ponds, the drainage ponds for all the drainage that comes into our pit. But that water truck, on dry days, it does run. Over the winter time, same story there. We can't run the water truck over the winter. That will start up in the spring even sooner though, because we can drain that in the evenings. But
okay,
usually runs 9 months a year, somewhere in that neighborhood. And that's logged as well, per our permit through the EPA. They can inspect the logs as well.
could you bring up the permit? Which one is it?
Did we see it earlier in their presentation?
Yeah. That one there. Can you bring that up?
This one here?
Yes.
All right.
And zoom in a little bit on it. When does the permit right now expire on parcels 8, 6, and 5 and that?
The way the permits are written, they don't have an expiration date. Once the DNR issues a permit, we have a certain time frame that we have to affect that area and utilize it to some degree or show some grading on it. So the permits are issued as an add-on status essentially. So if you add new acreage, it's added to your existing permit, and then they just list the different incremental acreages that you've added over the past.
And we've talked a lot about the dust on the road and other things. Just curious, how come a water truck doesn't get used at all to go out there and actually spray the road off? Is it not allowed by, you're not allowed to put that dust or that mud into the creeks? Or why is, just curious why never a water truck goes up and down the road and actually with a sprayer and sprays it off the side?
I've honestly, you would be the first person that's asked that I've heard. So everything that we've always done has been sweeper based, either try to pick it up or move it off the road. So I've never had that discussion with Brian Brown or anyone else with the city either from that level.
Okay.
So we don't use water either when we do go out and clean the shoulders occasionally, and the city did clean the ditches out here a couple of years back as well. We will grade that back onto the roadway and scoop it up and haul that material back into the quarry. But we have not washed any down through the ditches.
Just never gave it no thought for a water truck to go out there as of now. Okay. We talked about it the last time, but it wasn't on record. Are we going to get a system for when you're gonna blast it? We get a text sent to us, something sent to the residents to know that there's gonna be blasting going on to protect our animals and.
We do have we call it a blasting all call. There's a sign up for that, and I've got a sheet here that can be used. Anybody that wants to put their name on it tonight, that's in service right now. I think there are some people in here right now that do get that message. Usually it comes out as a phone call. You can put multiple phone numbers on it, and it's usually somewhere between 10 and 30 minutes before a blast goes off.
Okay.
How much warning?
It's usually
Or
between
notice-
10
notice, not
to
the
30
warning,
minutes. It's sometimes it gets delayed a little bit depending on when the blasters say they're ready versus when the actual blast goes off. So,
But
and we can make
is
that
there any
earlier.
way they can know 3 days in advance, 4 days in advance, anything like that? Would that be helpful?
Or, I mean, I didn't know there was something out there already. Where would I have found that at the last meeting or?
Yeah, I think they offered it up, but that's been 2018 at this point. So,
Okay.
but yeah, you can definitely get your name on there, whatever phone numbers you guys want that call to go to. And if there needs to be discussion about a warning a day in advance too, when we're planning, we can look at doing something like that as well. There's no harm in giving a 1 day advance notice and then also the call the day of. So if that needs to be brought up, that's fine too.
Okay, next question, on future plans of mining, when you do eventually make Third Road go up to parcel 5 there and make your entrance right there, will there be a hill to the south side to protect us a little bit from the noise and the dust too? For your future planning, or hasn't been thought through yet? Because obviously we gotta wait for Third Road to go back and all that. When you go in, when you move to the west side of Third Road, you're planning on going in parcel 5 with your new road, right? Correct? Your new entrance?
That's one of the possible scenarios. It depends on which direction we're going from there, whether we go through the existing pit
Okay.
to get up there. It's not determined yet, I guess is the best answer.
Yeah. I mean, I could tell you just from been living out there when, before you did move, and I understand you gotta move, and I understand you gotta keep going. But the hillside that we kept up right across from my house was one of the requests I had before, and that does help keep the noise and other things down, and the dust down. So maybe in future plans, when we do get to number 5 or get to that point, maybe we could hill the south side of 5, just to help some of us residents keep the noise down and keep some of the dust down.
You mean like a berm?
A big berm like they had before. I believe certain type of grasses or stuff you can grow that actually catch the dust Anything else? I can't hear you. Oh, seismograph. She wants to know about seismograph. Is it still getting put out?
Yes, part of the blasting protocol is the blasting company does put a seismograph out, and then those records are all inspected by the DNR twice a year.
Okay.
They come on site.
What determines what direction that seismograph goes?
Closest location with the residents, I believe, is where.
Okay. Good. That's all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would public commenter number 5 like to take the microphone?
My name's Lori Unz. I own a house and I own Eddie's Pet Shop, which is right when you go underneath the 80 overpass. So, I'm pretty affected by Illinois cement. I'll get to the dust in a minute, but one of the bigger issues is my well water. When they started blasting, I spent thousands of dollars so far on fixing my well. I didn't realize that this was gonna be a big issue, but again, thousands of dollars. I've had to install many different filter systems, to be able to use my water for my fish tanks and for my animals. And now that they've moved closer to me, I'm not sure what's gonna happen, cause I use gallons and gallons and gallons of water to do, I have huge fish tanks that I have to do large water changes in. Like some of my fish tanks are 300-gallon fish tanks, and I have to do huge amounts of water change. I used to be able to use my water straight from the well, for years and years and years, and now I can't. And I have to let it run through filters and an RO system, which does a drip system, which takes forever, and then I have to bucket it out, and it's really complicated, a lot of things. I even had to start buying water there for a while until everything got fixed. And all this happened during right along the time where the blast was so big that in the front of my building, I have big, like 5-foot by 4-foot pane windows, and one of the blasts actually cracked and broke my big 5-foot by 4-foot pane window, and bricks fell off of my building. I called Illinois Cement about it, and they came up and looked at it and agreed that they did do it. So it's not, the blast was pretty big. I have a flat roof on my store, and I've had roof issues ever since, with a lot of the dust and stuff, and my gutters, even the gutters, because my house is right there and my store is right there, my gutters are like packed with like a mud substance. Like you can't just blow leaves out of your gutters. You have to like dig your gutters clean. And even up on my store, you have to dig the stuff out of them. And I don't really, at my age, don't really want to get on the top of my roof so many times to clean out the gutters and that. And as far as the dust, so I'm right there in front of the hill on Route 80. So when that dust comes, it hits that hill, like Jim was saying, and it rolls right back onto me. And as a pet store, I would like to open my door to get fresh air in there, but I can't, because that dust just rolls in, and I know it's not healthy for me, and so I know it's not healthy for my animals, And when I do dare to open it for a while, it's caused a film. Like I have like 300-gallon tanks, and they don't have a top to them, and like this film coats the top of the tanks. And so I can't even open my door to my store. I never open my windows to my house. That's just, I just don't do it. It's just not healthy. As far as the roads, I've had customers tell me they would come out and shop more, but my road's always so bad. It's either so dusty or crappy that they don't even want to come out to my business. So as far as the street sweeper, I don't see what good he's doing, really. He does utilize my parking lot. He comes, loops through, adding to the pothole situation. A lot of times he parked there for, you know, his brakes, right there in my parking, or in the gravel road right by me. But it's just not a good, it's not a good thing. I think they're ruining my business with the water to the well, to the dust, to people not wanting to come out there. Eddie's Pet Shop has been going for over 70 years, and it's not going well now. And I know Illinois Cement brings a lot to the area, but I hope you consider that it's these small mom and pop stores that help build this area. And I'm hoping that you would consider my store, and that it's been going for so long, and consider the animals and their health. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
I have one comment too. I walk a lot, and it's been pretty dry lately, but when we're getting rain and they're sweeping with yellow sweeper, they sweep the road like you were saying. They're sweeping all that water off the side of the road, and if you step off the edge of the road, you'll sink 1.5 to 2 inches deep in mud. So when you're walking on that road, you gotta stay on the road. You can't step off the road. You know, it's kind of a scary thing with the way people drive on that road to begin with. You know, cause I think a kid, 1.5 to 2 inches deep in mud.
Would public commenter number 6 like to take the microphone?
Hi, Bill. My name is Alan Delphi, and everything I say, trying to say, is the truth. I have a couple questions on the cement quarry. You're calling it Dimmick Quarry, right? Shouldn't we, as residents of Dimmick, be getting some benefit from this, being you're using the name? And another thing, with the wells, do you have all these permits for all this?
The Dimmick quarry term is just, I don't know, a term of endearment. That's what it's been called since I got there. So I think just simply because it was Dimmick Township. So I'm not sure what you're asking on the permits for the wells. So,
Well, is there some sort of like if say the wells go bad, do you have some sort of, I guess you'd call it, to fix these wells with the residents?
You said water.
Yeah, I have one.
So, yeah, we would, I mean, I think we've made that clear already that we are more than willing to offer up the identical well agreement. I've got copies of that for anyone that wants to take it for review. If there's someone that has a well agreement, that wants to refresh that or make sure that we've got all the paperwork, if that's a contingent for this as well, then we're more than happy to do that. So.
And I thought they were supposed to check it once a year or something like that at each residence that has one.
I think it's an initial inspection, by yeah, it was optional if the owner wanted it. We had a licensed geologist who was a specialist in hydrogeology. I can tell you up front that individual doesn't work for that company. His name was Brad Renwick. We do have another hydrogeologist that's with that company that we would utilize in this case. It's the same company.
Yeah, the agreement provided that the company had the option of coming out and doing a baseline test to establish that, and they elected not to do the baseline. It was more for their protection. The agreement still says that they caused a problem with your well, and it was caused by their mining, and they have to fix the well.
Well, I had a problem with the well, but I didn't know if it was the pump or the well itself. It was like the chicken or the egg went first, you know. And
what did it turn out to be?
Well, I just went and fixed it. Put a new pump in, and had to go out there. My well was 96 feet. And how deep are the quarries? About 100?
Right now, it's around 95 to 100 feet to the bottom of the formation where
And
we're
the
at.
overburden's what, about 75 feet and another?
It's a little less than that in the area we're in right now.
Oh, yeah.
It's around 65 right now, but it's headed for 70 to 75 feet.
Okay. And then the setbacks are what are they?
Our existing setback is the depth of the overburden times 1.5, plus there's an additional 10 feet from the apparent right of way. That's how it's the technical term. So, for example, if there's 80 foot of overburden, it's 120 feet plus another 10 feet, so it'd be 130 feet. That's the point at which we can start removing overburden.
And how about the sanitation, like septic tanks and that in these areas? They're not hooked up to the city or anything, so do you cover that? Or I don't have that problem yet, but I've talked to residents. I live up on North 32nd Road and East 3rd Road. I have 2 parcels of property there. And some of the residents in that area experienced windows cracked or, vibration in their foundations and all that. But you said you had seismic analysis there, right? Like in the River Valley, the Little Vermilion area.
The seismographs are set up for every blast that they do. And that information is recorded on the blast reports the DNR inspects. Yeah, it's not self-recorded by us. That's on the actual reports that the DNR inspects twice a year.
Why do we need blasting? Because I've talked to your parent company down in Texas, and they said they could do with some machinery instead of blasting.
Surface mining was tried out at our quarry. It didn't work out very well from my understanding. I was not involved with the quarry until around the time the bypass road was built. So I don't have any experience with it personally. But what I've been told is that they did attempt at a surface mining machine that goes across the top of the limestone and extracts it that way.
Yeah.
I don't believe it worked well for our situation. Whether it was the material, the layout, I'm not sure. I can't speak to that honestly.
Well, they said they used it in Texas. I don't know. Let's see. the property has to be contiguous, right? I mean, it has to be joined in order to take the roadways and all that.
This property's already in the city.
Yeah, but not on North 32nd Road. You're taking that whole road. It's not on the north side because I own the north side, Brady's own the north side, Peter's own the north side.
Right.
They're not in the city. So you shouldn't have the whole road.
I'm not sure what you're asking on that one,
Well,
Alan. On North 32nd, no, Illinois Cement is not on both sides of the road.
Over 70 years, and I never had problems with the road. I don't go down East Third Road because of all the limestone dust and everything else. I go down North 32nd Road out to 251. And that's what I was asking you about the setbacks. And then another question I got is the easements, the railroad easement. I know it's abandoned, but the easements are still there. So you're gonna be mining down on Bedenko's. That's a railroad piece of property there.
So he bought that.
Yeah, but it's still in the deed. And mine, it's still in the deed. If they ever wanna come back and put a railroad in there, they could do it. No? Okay. That's all I got then.
I have a question. It ties into some of the things he brought up in Mr. Verdanko's. It's just a mathematical formula. If you have a piece of ground, just a mathematical formula of how much of it you could mine. Is that correct?
Yes.
You have to be back so far. Okay. And then by the time you get there, you're going to know how much rock is there and how much overburden, correct? Or a very good idea. So then you do all that math, and then it tells you if it's worth mining that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Verdanko, he didn't think there's enough to mine, but you already did the math, and there is, correct? Okay. That's all I had on that question.
To clarify, Mr. Bedanko knows there's enough. He knows that our intention is to mine it, so.
He knows there's enough because you already figured it out, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Question,
John,
in the beginning, you said 3 is not going to be mined, or is?
3 is not.
Is not going.
The east side a little over a million. So
Section 3.
yeah, section 3, what divides that is a little over a million going down through there.
And Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was also a setback off of that with the 200 feet when that was first originally brought into the city.
That is correct. So on the west side, a little over a million, we did not mine down into the valley at all either when that pit was first opened. So the actual timbered face, basically the ridge that comes up from the little over a million up to where the fields were, was not mined.
And 2 is where you're at now?
Our actual working face, you can actually see in the background, is actually, I think it's 7 and 9 and 10. That's where the actual working face is. The overburden that we remove is getting put where 2 is, but further to the north of the number.
Would public commenter number 7 like to take the microphone?
Could you put back up the 4 parcels?
Sure,
Maybe the red or orange.
this one here?
Yeah.
Got it.
John Lamb.
Thank you.
And I guess I have a shorter question. On the very southern, too far, on the very southern tip, from what I understood, you'd never mine that? That very narrow strip?
With existing setback requirements, there's not a feasible way to mine down to the limestone there.
Would there be any conceivable way that would be disturbed in any way? Like below ground?
Say that again?
Would there be any reason that you'd ever disturb that area below the ground level that exists now?
Are you talking about the stuff that borders at Carolina and Cost?
The little red strip that you'd be buying from Frank, that's very narrow there. Would there be any reason to ever disturb what's within that area that you're?
But you're just talking about where that white line's going back and forth.
Yes.
We would be responsible for maintaining the drainage that comes from the city of Peru land next to it.
That drains hundreds and hundreds of acres
Yeah,
of farmland.
it drains in a large part of the industrial area as well to the west.
Right.
So we'd be responsible for maintaining that.
Yes,
So
it does.
it's possible that we would have to disturb it if something happened.
Okay, that's my whole question.
No, that's got to
It has
remain
go-
open. There's a lot of water that comes to that field.
I farm it.
Okay, explains it.
Would public commenter number 8 like to take the microphone?
Hello, Doris Peters. I am owner of property that is contiguous on 32nd Road and East 3rd Road. And I'm here for the first time. I was not here at the meetings in 2018. So, but I've been having to drive by the pit, and it's very, very difficult to see what's being done out there. There's destruction that's happening, and I don't need a show of hands from the commission, but I would like to challenge each of you, if you have not driven out that way, to actually see what's being done out there, to do so. Price of gas is not too high yet. It's creeping up a little bit. And I fully understand the need for this company to stay in business, that it's contributing to the workforce here. And I guess one question I had was the tipping fee that you mentioned, the $98,000. Is that what I understood?
That's the average since the tipping fee was initiated.
So the dollar amount that's given to the city?
Yes.
Okay, so that's like the gravy for having your business here, correct?
I don't know if it's if it's appropriate. Yeah, I was gonna say if Brian wants to comment.
We did some work out on East Third. We had some concrete approaches. We did ditch cleaning that they had mentioned earlier. And then because of multiple trucks, there's patching that needs to be done. So that's basically for us to maintain East Third and Civic Road.
So that's what it is.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, regardless, my gut feeling is still that I am against rezoning for further mining in the area, despite I know your need for this company to survive and expand. But this mining is permanently wiping out any source of future revenue for the city of LaSalle. I know you have a wonderful park to the east side, but I think there's only so many parks we're going to be able to have here in the area. And one further question I had for someone is your idea of reclamation of the area of the pit once the mining is complete. What is your simple scenario of what happens?
Our base requirement is return it to a pasture grass. There's a grass mixture that we're required. They get very specific in the DNR permit for the reclamation of what's required, and then they have to come out and inspect it over multiple years to make sure that it's suitable, so that you can't turn around and throw your sand and gravel on your top layer and not let anything grow. It won't pass the reclamation, and you won't get your bond obligation returned to you from the state.
So the giant hill would be put back into the hole? I'm sorry to be so ignorant.
No, and I honestly, I can't speak to the giant mound that was referred to on the south side.
Yes.
I don't know what the agreement was for that when the pit was opened. I really don't. I think that would have been established at around 90, 98, 1999, somewhere in there.
And who would know that? Someone here in the city of LaSalle? Would they know that?
I don't think there was any agreement.
That wouldn't have been with the city, that would have been with the DNR.
Yeah.
Part of the reclamation, all design. So the city wouldn't have been part of that discussion.
That's a question. I mean, I could ask the DNR representative when they come to inspect what they have for documentation on it.
And how far north do you currently have property earmarked for mining?
The property that was added in 2018, so right on the south side of North 32nd Road.
Okay.
Yes,
Property on the north side of 32nd Road?
we do not.
Okay, because there was drilling there this summer. At Route 251 and 32nd on the north side of the road. Quite extensive. He was in a good chunk of acreage there. So prime farmland that's going to be destroyed. So, second concern, as a retired nurse, obviously concerned about the damage that's being done to the buildings, to this lady's business. But I think when you look at that mud that's flowing down the window, you have to think about all that dust that's going into your lungs, into our lungs out there. Okay? And you might say, well, I'm about 2 miles north of your blasting site, but I've had my furnace filter checked. There's some stuff in my furnace filter that should not be there. Definitely should not be there. And I would challenge all of you at some time to take your furnace filter, see if we can get it checked somewhere to see what kind of chemicals are in there that we are taking in all the time. And you can't put a dollar sign on that. You know, you just can't put a dollar sign on how important our health is. And that's, I think, where most of these residents who are much closer to the impacted site have been dealing with for longer than I have. So, and I guess that's all I have to say. So, thank you. I guess I will add, if there's any chance of some type of an air monitor being put up, I don't know, I have no background in checking. I know there's been one put up for the Terrace chemical plant on the east side of LaSalle. But again, the wind usually is out of the west of the south. It's very seldom out of the east. So even here in downtown LaSalle, eventually that dust is in the air. It's coming down this way too.
I do have a comment. I got a $40,000 car. And Thursday, when I leave the house, I'm gonna be driving in mud down the road. And then they gotta take it to the car wash. You know what I'm saying? I think that maybe we should get reimbursed somehow for cleaning our vehicles. If they don't choice, we have to drive. And I challenge anybody here to drive down that road Thursday when it rains, to see what happens to your car.
And I didn't know about any well agreement or anything. Are they gonna reimburse me for those thousands of dollars that I had to spend on my well and filters?
At this time, we'd have to have a separate discussion on that. If it wasn't part of an existing agreement, we're not gonna vouch for the well work that was done.
But I didn't know about it, how did no one?
Did you own the property in 2018? Or was that still Grunwald's?
No, I've been there since '97.
very good.
So you had opportunity back then to get in on these well agreements when they brought them up in 2018.
Yeah, I never knew about them.
That concludes the public comment numbers, but if there's somebody who hasn't, I didn't talk to that would still like to comment, you can do so now, or if the commission. There are
Or
any.
question or testify.
Oh, wait a minute, Jim, John.
What that agreement was, with the city, and I think Jim and I talked about today on the ordinance, you read me what the ordinance was, is that Illinois Cement had to hire a geologist with, hydrologist, what's the?
Hydrogeology.
Hydrogeologist, to determine what wells could possibly be affected. They come up with a cone of influence, so what the area was, and the whole purpose of that was that everybody was approached that was in the scientific cone of influence that could possibly have their wells affected, and that's who the well agreement was sent out. And if she didn't get one, she wasn't in what was determined the cone of influence for possible damage to wells.
Did you lose your pond? It's gone, but why it's gone, I don't know.
Well, they moved to the other side of the road.
Yeah.
But that was all to cover all of the properties that were brought in 2018.
But if it could crack a big 5-foot by 4-foot windmill, I'm pretty sure it could affect.
I think Mr. Lovegren's indicated he'd still be willing to talk to you separately. Is that correct, sir?
Yeah, well, I think we need to, that's something we can talk about after this, but there's a separate discussion, but yes.
And in regard to the well agreements, you're willing to do the same type of have a study done, make a similar commitment you've indicated regarding, there could be different impacts from what you're proposing now, correct?
Correct, we would offer the same, I believe the language was written into the agreements last time, we would offer that same agreement. Well, I can catch up with you, but yeah, before you can give me a call.
Joe Izzo again. I just want to thank you guys for taking our concerns and listen to what we have to say. I guess my biggest question is, I forgot your name in the middle. What was your name again? Eric, you said the biggest thing was acquiring land right now. So if it's about acquiring the land, why are we rezoning right now? Or going from M1 to M2? I believe you made the comment earlier that it's about just acquiring land. So why are we having to do this right now? What's the point of doing it right now? Sorry.
It's our company policy corporately and for Illinois Cement that we want to know that we can use it for its intended use or they won't spend capital on it. So back to, I think early in the presentation, in order to spend the kind of capital that land acquisitions take in today's market, we have to know that we can use it for what we intend to use it for.
And that was the same process in 2018? Okay.
Yes, in 2018, to be clear, in 2018, there was a parcel that was owned already, but it was also known what was there. But the bulk of that was also, I believe that involved annexation and rezoning.
They're basically all contracts subject to zoning.
Gotcha. I understand. Thank you.
Eric, what is the size of the Badenko area?
It's approximately 70 acres for all 4 parcels. Yes.
And I don't know if this is a question I should be even asking, but if you don't get this permit, where would you go?
We'll continue mining where our existing permit is. And that's as stated earlier, that's our plan either way, is we continue mining where the existing permitted area is.
Has anyone not had a chance to speak that would like to?
Anybody on the planning commission have any questions now that you've heard quite a few people from the audience ask questions, make comments. Eric answered most of their questions. Maybe not to their satisfaction, but he did answer them. He didn't back away from any. So now, Ms. Peters over there, you're concerned about the farm ground being sold, okay? The rest of the people, most of their concerns are the amount of dust. Would that be correct? A correct assessment by me?
Property value too, but.
You know.
If they're lying in bust of the houses, that could be really, really bad.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The dust is your biggest concern.
If they wouldn't buy us out, you almost have to move out of the house because you wouldn't know who lived there.
In our house.
So if they could do something, to somehow keep some of that dust down more. That also in 2018 for the people that were around, that was also the concern. I remember Liz Porter said, her exact comment was, I think you're doing a good job. I just think you could maybe do a little better job, okay?
I've got worse after that.
And once again, I don't know anything about, street sweepers, water and home water, squirting a road off. You certainly understand that appears to be the biggest issue. John, Eric?
I can show you some video, I got a bunch of it.
No, I don't think anybody doubts you. I've driven on the road.
Go there Thursday and drive down the road and check it out.
I actually drove off the road. For the first hearing, I wanted to pull off the side of the road and take a look at that parcel, and believe me, my pickup truck sunk in more than 2 inches, but.
You can't put a price, like you said, on our house, and that's where I find out. I've had cancer twice, and I don't need any more health issues.
The dust, it hits the hillside, the interstate.
It comes right back to you.
And it goes up against the road and the wind from the other side makes it do this, it swirls and it comes right back down on the pet shop and on our house. And, I watch it all the time, I watch it every day do it. You can see it, just go watch it sometime.
Anything else by anyone on the planning commission?
Your assessment was great. The only things they have, everyone's gotta walk out here understanding this big. You're talking about a roadway, they need to do something maybe about the dust. But they're limited what they can do on that roadway because of liability. Because if John Q. Public's driving up Dimmick or whatever, and they got the wrong type of material on there and causes an accident, they're liable. So they're limited on what they can do, what they can put on a tax road. I believe you, I don't need to see it, but I'm saying for the cleaning purposes, somebody over there brought up about chemicals and everything to be used. They have to watch what they put on roadways, because they take liability. Anytime you do anything to a roadway, the attorneys can tell you that, or on your own property, you take the liability case. If somebody gets hurt, somebody goes up to Dimmick to pick up their child, and it's the wrong thing that they did, they can be held responsible for that.
And certainly in the winter, you got a problem. If you're squirting water out there, pretty soon you got a skating rink, but.
It's not just the roadway though. Sit at N31 and E3 during the afternoon, and when the wind is blowing south, that's the only thing that's coming down the road that you can see. Barfield, it's coming to our house, it's going to everybody's house, it's just continuing.
It's not good for your health, I can tell you. I'm there all the time, you know. I get the deal with the dust, I get the breathing dust about 18 hours a day. You know, at least they get to go home for after 8-hour shift, you know.
I'd like to comment, the audience, you were very calm, dignified, made intelligent statements and questions. I don't know if that's going to make you any happier, but I do want to compliment you. You were very good. And I think Eric understands your concerns. I'm not Illinois Cement, so I don't know what they can do to help control more of that dust. But that is your biggest concern, or it appears to me. Eric seems like a smart guy. He ought to be able to figure something out for you.
I want to, just a quick second, thank you to everyone too that has engaged with us. Some of you I've spoken to personally, some of you I haven't. And it's been constructive conversations. And again, kind of like he said, it doesn't always end to the result where we both want it to end, but keep holding us accountable, I guess is the best way to put it. Wherever this process takes us, keep in contact, keep bringing us your concerns, and we'll continue to work on them. So that's what I can tell you right now is that we're gonna make every effort to continue to make it better. You guys are sending that message loud and clear, and we need to respond in that regard.
Could we get a phone number for her? So if we have a question, we can call somebody. We did that one day.
Somebody there said something about a liaison, didn't they, John?
He's handing out cards.
You know.
Yeah,
Sean's giving him his card directly.
But the plant manager also made a commitment that he'd be willing to listen to them personally now. Did I hear that?
So he's giving the cards or his phone number.
What happened last
Good.
time though, we called Corey and we get the operator and we tell him, hey, the dust is really, really bad today, and the guy would hang up and nobody contacted us back.
Call me. That's what I'm saying. Get a hold of me. I can always run out there.
Yes, sir.
Back in 2018, with the residents up on Northeast 3rd and North 32nd, and in that area, 3179, we had a meeting, initial meeting, and what we're gonna have is like an annual meeting to address concerns. It kind of went away since then, so I was wondering if we could do that.
I can address that. We had several meetings. We had them at the back room of the uptown.
Yeah.
Right? And each time the crowd dropped off to basically nothing and they weren't productive because we get there and nobody really had much to talk about, and it just kind of petered out because gradually people lost interest, and probably the first ones were well attended, and after that it just kind of died out.
Tom, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
This question is for the folks that came up to speak. If that 70+ acres that is currently being discussed, if that was not to be mined, would that satisfy your needs? Or is it still across the road, the dust and whatnot?
They would still be driving down the same road, correct, Eric?
That's what I'm thinking.
If you add some other parcel, I mean, I know somebody mentioned to the north and the west, I don't know if you own that ground, but It would still come down the same road, right?
There's still a little bit less than 700.
So you'd
600
still have
acres
that dust problem.
Okay.
It would make a big difference to me if it's not mine, since it would be right on the border of my property, it would be much worse than mine.
That also is this same concern by any property owner in 2018 that was right on the border, correct, John? Larry? You know, Patty Hall's property was,
Right.
you know, right, John? You remember that? I don't know,
sure
you
do.
know, who else was around, but yes,
Well,
sir.
that's what I was gonna address. Out of that 640 acre section there, how much is in there now? I mean, for mining, is only about what, 300?
By the time they burn it, probably.
Are you talking about these 4 parcels?
No, I'm talking about the 2018. North 31st. to
Where
North
George and
32nd.
Patty Hall are?
Yes.
On the dust in the road, I understand, and I appreciate they go out there and do that, but the issue really is they don't have enough room to clean up the trucks before they enter a road. The scale got put right close to the road, and I understand it was back in the day and everything else. The real issue is that the trucks could keep some of that mud in their property before they entered. I understand they take risks going out and cleaning that road, so, and it's become an issue. Like that problem maybe can get solved by somehow rerouting the trucks in the plant after they go over the scale. They go down a drive for a while and get some of the bigger mud off before they enter the road, because if you look, they go up over the scale, they come right out, turn, and the mud's flying off the trucks. And I understand they didn't build it, that's just got operations up and going, but I do believe that's one of the things that need to get addressed and would help the road tremendously. Just by, I understand we're not gonna stop the dust is always gonna happen, but it will stop the mud clumps and the real
John,
messiness of the road.
does the truck wash help?
No, it just makes it muddier and brings it right out onto the road.
I believe the truck wash helps, but I also understand when they first opened that quarry, I think everybody agreed that wheel wash was in the wrong place. Easier said than done, but,
I understand.
believe me, I asked many a times to get it moved.
I gotta remember, the bigger the quarry gets, the more they're gonna drive the mud too.
Pardon?
The bigger the quarry gets, the more they're gonna be driving the mud in the quarry. It's gotta be rough on the trucks, you keep the trucks out of the mud.
That's why I have hair and Eric doesn't, because that's his problem now, not mine.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Would the planning commission be ready to take any action tonight, now?
I'd be satisfied doing it tonight. I don't know what else we would hear if we came back. I remember back in 2018 that was brought up, and we just took a vote that night because what else is gonna be brought to our attention?
And this, I'm sure, is not gonna make anybody out there any happier, but the job of the planning commission is to be a representative of the city and to act in the best interest of the city, whatever that means. Okay, that's, you know, for us to decide what you consider the best interest of our community. All right? And that's in every action we make. Whether somebody wants to rezone a piece of property to put an apartment on, or to open a business, tattoo parlor, kinda, that's a special use permit. All right? The younger the planning commission, the more they're gonna think that tattoo parlor is just mainstream. Older people, you think, Okay. Larry, would you want to make a motion?
You could,
Jim?
do you have a motion? Is it gonna be a motion to grant or a motion to deny?
I make a motion that we take a vote tonight on this issue of all 4 plots. And not detain it any longer than if we would make it.
Jim, can we act on all 4 together?
Yes, you can. You can make a motion to act on all
If
4.
there's a motion for that.
I have a motion drafted for either granting or denying. Which motion were you going to make, Mr. Happ?
Pardon me?
We're gonna make a motion to grant the petition or to deny it?
If you grant the permission.
Okay.
Petition tonight, also the vote all 4 in one, because of our listening to everyone, I didn't hear anybody break it down into sections. They talked as a whole, which was good.
Right, then I had motions prepared for everything, because obviously I had to wait for the evidence and see what the plan commission did. One question I had for the developer too, though, is it, if there was an agreement the last time that if it was rezoned, you would agree the premises would never be used for R4 zoning, multiple family dwelling as defined in the LaSalle zoning ordinance.
Well, that's.
Is that a commitment
Your
you're willing to make
motion
here
is
too?
to proceed and do them all at once. We need a second.
And you need a second on that.
Yes.
Okay. Then, Mr. Happ, could you pass this over?
Jim?
Well, Jim, we gotta get a second on my motion to do this tonight.
He had a question. His motion is to act on it tonight and take all the parcels together.
You can make that motion, have a second, take a roll call on that, and then we can have a motion.
Then he can make his motion on what we want to do. Okay, does anybody want to second the motion to act tonight and take all the parcels as one? John is second the motion?
Yes.
Amy, roll call vote, please. Unless everybody understands the motions. Okay.
Okay, Tom Pagatti,
Yeah.
John C. Kawitz,
Yes.
John Fletcher,
No.
Larry Happ,
Yes.
Nicole Gurdon,
No.
Mike Nazlowski,
No.
Sam McNeely,
Yes.
Jim Cleary.
No.
The tie, I believe, Chairman, then you're asked to vote.
Did I get him? I did, I'm sorry.
I already
Oh, never mind.
voted.
You didn't get it.
What do I have? Did I miss something? So yeah, that was 4-4, yeah. Yeah, tie.
Yeah. Remember I said, why?
Well, so at this point then, there's not a motion to go forward and take action.
No. So to the city, we currently don't have,
Well, you can always recess and reconvene and hear more
Can I just
evidence.
ask a question,
yes, John.
I'm curious as to why we're not moving forward, or was it because all 4 parcels were together, or was it just, what's the reason for not taking
John?
I'd like to answer that. I think I don't have a problem with all 4 parcels being packaged together. That's fine. I think the thing that I'd like to know more of what's happening for these folks that they had brought up, and what is the company going to do with those ideas, and then take a vote on whether it passes or not. Is
Do
that
you
clear?
have a timeline for that, John?
Is it,
Do you have a timeline for these people to get this done? Let's say it takes 3-4 months for them to all get together.
I don't think I can answer that, Larry.
What you're proposing is you're saying you wanna wait and hear what they work out for them.
Well, either that or take more evidence. If they put together, they've heard a lot of questions, they said they're gonna be receptive. You could recess this meeting and reconvene at a convenient time 2 weeks from now and have them present what they've done in the meantime and or what they propose to do for them.
We have to act on it sooner or later. Illinois Cement's not going away,
Right,
okay?
agreed.
So would you want,
I'd say
like
2 weeks.
Jim said, would you want to hear in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, Illinois Cement to come back and say, okay, you know, we've found a street sweeper that actually sucks all the dust, or however they're going to address the audience, the public's concern.
Yes.
That's what you want.
And to Larry's comment, 2 weeks might be a little quick, less than 3 or anything more than 3 or 4.
One of the
would
problems
be-
you have with this is, and I'm sympathetic to everybody's issues, but all they have to do is keep complaining and keep saying they're not satisfied, and we can never resolve this. So the power is in just by saying, oh, it's not any better, it's not any better, it's still the same. And
Unless the no votes decide, you know, they're going to do the best they can and we should move forward. But yeah, if the dust, and I'm not making light of the dust, trust me, but if the dust is going to be an issue, you're right, John. It's always going to be an issue. And you have to remember, we already, I don't know what the correct word is, we already postponed their action because we didn't have a quorum the last time they came forward a couple months ago, correct? So sooner or later, we have to decide.
The last meeting was November 18th.
If you just don't want to be in favor of it, eventually we're going to have to take some action and you're just going to have to
Yeah,
vote.
but I'm not hearing
No.
that. I didn't hear that was the decision tonight so far. I mean,
No, I'm saying though, if you just don't feel comfortable ever voting on it, because as John said, the dust is always going to be an issue.
Tom?
Yes, John.
The one thing I did hear from the folks that came up and talked was they actually had some suggestions that would be above and beyond what Illinois Cement is currently doing. And if Illinois Cement could come back in 2, 3, whatever week period, with some suggestions for these folks, I would be willing to change my vote. I just want to know what you have intended to help.
what were the suggestions, if we could, that they say would solve the problem?
Well, not solve the problem, aid the problem.
Okay, or make it better.
Right, make it a little better. Maybe have a little more water going out on the items. Come on, folks, you had suggestions.
Run the sweepers with water when you can.
Okay, that's
The only thing is
one.
we're in
And-
we're in January right now.
Yeah,
The
it's,
water is not gonna be used until April or May, and as they explained earlier.
Folks do have the benefit of the tape now and the YouTube video that wasn't available 6 years ago when we did this. So to listen regarding the concerns.
Well, last summer, they might use spray the roads, but the yellows.
Oh, I'm not saying what they're doing in the summer, but I'm just saying with the water, you can't use it right now, you're only in January.
John?
Brian, I don't wanna drag you into something you probably don't wanna get into.
Drag me into it.
But do you see anything that could be done to make it better?
I believe, as was stated, the wheel wash is in the wrong place. I think there's new technology of types of wheel washes that can enhance. As far as the road cleaning, there was statements on if they use chemicals or something, they have to be concerned about. Well, I also think when it is warmer and they can't use, it's not quite warm enough, that the road is covered in mud a lot of times, which is also a safety issue. That, I think there can be a little bit better attention to trying to get the mud before it gets on the road. I believe that could be done.
Yes, sir.
I want a more definitive answer on the parcels. They said, well, we're not gonna use this little sliver piece, and we're not gonna take this, but we're gonna use this. I want the sections that they want to use. I want an answer, more definitive answer. You said that one pie-shaped piece, you wouldn't use it.
No, he said they were gonna use it.
Or you're gonna use it, okay. That little sliver down there, going towards the 80, you said you wouldn't use that.
Well, some of it, obviously you can see there's not enough room there with setbacks. The setbacks would take up the whole area.
That's what I asked you, what are the setbacks? I mean, how many feet?
It's back to that formula. Could you,
Standard right now, the rough overburden depth on the southern half of the Dangle parcel, we'd be looking at, based on our standard setback, about 130 feet. The DNR can issue a greater setback than that if they choose to. So
Because I was reading, there was 300 feet on these property owners, there was 300-foot setback.
So then that's up to the Illinois Department of Natural Resources ultimately. We don't get to pick what they choose when they issue a mining permit. So if their standards have changed, then we'll have to adhere to whatever those standards are.
would you like a shaded area inside the orange to where they were gonna mine? Is that at all possible?
Yes,
I mean, if it's-
You could put something together, the width, in there, like you see the flag come out to East Third, the width between those two is what, 700-800 feet, I believe? So if you took 130 plus feet from all corners, there's still a 300-400 foot, 500 foot area that they could mine out to the pond in that. I mean, there's still mineable property there.
Now, the other thing that people have to take into consideration is that's gonna be a lot more expensive to mine. And the likelihood of them doing it, unless something changes, they're gonna take the easy stuff. But Eric and Sean sitting here are not gonna make commitments that they'll never mine it because they have enough other stuff, because if they do come back and say, you lied to us.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah,
they have.
so that's gonna be the most expensive of all the properties they own to mine. So logic tells you that being mined is not
Not, yeah.
It's not economically feasible at this point in time, and in my mind, logic tells me it's not gonna get any cheaper. But they can say, no, we're never gonna mine that, because if they ever do, they'll be called liars. Now, there might be some other circumstances that change their minds, or if it was economical to buy everybody's house, maybe that would all change. But if they buy everybody's house, then these people don't care if they mine. But economics right now doesn't make that. Now, there's other advantages as you get north of O'Connell's property, having that strip up there for other things, like, for example, that gives them more of the one that says Illinois Cement on the mine, because now they own that property, so that's part of the setback. So there's economic advantages to mine, to them having that whole thing. And again, the problem with, that everybody's complaining about, is always gonna be there as long as they're mining all the stuff that these people want them to mine, so they're not mining behind the house. So it's, and they've heard the issues. They will go back to corporate, talk to them, because they don't have the authority to do some of the stuff that, and so I think they're committed to working harder and harder at it. And I don't see this, I don't see delaying it doing any good.
Well, the other thing, separate from that, we're gonna have to act at some time. Now, if you don't wanna act tonight, that's your concern, okay? But sooner or later, we're gonna have to act. John already said what it would take him to get him off the fence and act. The other three votes, of course, Jim,
Well, right now you've decided that you're not prepared to make a decision this evening. And so I think at this point in time, and some have said that more information might help make a decision. So right now you're deadlocked, and I think a reasonable alternative is to consider recess and reconvene in a short time and see what.
Okay, Jim, if you reconvene and you have a different cast of characters next time.
You can still reconvene and have a different cast of characters as long as you got a quorum.
But they won't have,
Okay.
they won't have heard anything.
Yeah, but they will have heard, because we now have a YouTube tape. And I would encourage everyone to consider listening to that, because there's been a lot brought forward here. If it's not gonna get decided tonight, that is one of the benefits of being online now.
Well, is another alternative just to take a vote on the thing and then send it back on 4-4 tie to the city council?
Well, they've already decided that
Well, they can reconsider that.
they can do a motion to reconsider it, but if it comes out the same way, then it
It goes back as a no recommendation.
No, they haven't said they're not gonna make a no recommendation, John.
No, but we don't know. I mean, but it could come out that way.
Well, only if they want to reconsider their present motion. If they're comfortable with where they are.
I mean, you're on the planning commission. You have to have the fortitude to make a decision. Otherwise, you shouldn't be on the planning commission. Other than you're excusing yourself, because, your brother-in-law is Eric or something like that. You know what I mean? And it's not a position that you're going to make any friends. You know what I mean?
Question.
You just, eventually you have to act, unless, John, you're going to just say, hey, I'm not going to vote on that thing. That's too.
Well, they will, somebody who can make a motion to pass it, but they've already made a motion to not.
They made a motion not to act tonight, so unless.
They make a motion to reconsider that and to act, that's the way it stands for now, and then we would recess and reconvene.
John?
Are the other three willing to say what was.
Yeah, why they're not ready to act, John? Yeah,
that-
that was my
Is that
question too.
appropriate to
Yes,
ask
sir.
The thing I'm waiting to hear is something concrete that,
No pun intended.
there you go. The dust issue or whatever, that's gonna be there forever. But, broken glass, dirty fish tanks, or, furnace filters, maybe there's contaminants. The only thing I'm waiting for is what your corporation will say. Put down on paper, here's what we'll do for the residents of that area. Cause I haven't heard anything. And I believe you can't say anything because you don't have the authority to do it.
Well,
To make a commitment to help the people.
we don't know if, we know probably the issues on the road. Because if there was no issues on the road, they would be sweeping it and trying all these different things. We know that is a concern, a legitimate concern. As far as broken windows, we had one person say that, and all the time that they've been.
You have occasionally air blasts, right?
Air blast is measured as well, and there's
I
a
wouldn't
limitation
prefer
on
to
that.
you.
Huh?
And when you have one, it rattles my windows. Okay. It hasn't broken it. So, okay, and they're sitting right there on the property. But just something concrete. Is there a copy of this session that they could look at and have all the questions? Or
You're
get a
talking-
copy of the minutes or something?
Yeah, the minutes will probably not be available in time. Well, I shouldn't say it won't be available in time, but the video recording is live streamed currently right now and will be viewable the second we're done.
Couldn't you use that? And you'd have all these concerns.
We could, and if I could comment on some of what we're willing to offer is that in listening to them, we have done things in the past. We have washed siding. We did repair the window. We did pay for that repair at the window at the pet shop. We're continuing to engage with them. You saw Sean passing his card out. I think our efforts here were not to make this a public foray into each individual's concerns. I think is why we didn't give specifics. Yeah, absolutely. Would we consider getting siding washed at a house? Absolutely. If that helps the situation,
But
no
something
doubt.
from corporate,
So
down on paper.
that doesn't need to come from
Here's what
corporate.
we
That
as a
is- that's
corporation
sitting
are gonna
right
do
here.
for these people.
That's sitting right here. We can make that decision.
You have that authority.
Yes, absolutely. We can take
Pressure
care of.
wash their
Well,
house every other year or something like
View
that. Or
View this meeting, and you'll have all the concerns. The one thing that really surprised me is nobody said the value of their property is ruined.
Right.
And I would never change my vote on something like that. But these other things, I'd be willing to if these people are satisfied that here's what they're gonna do, it's down on paper. You can't change it then, you gotta help. I don't think they asked for anything ridiculous at all.
The question I have is, you guys are talking about YouTube. I'm familiar with YouTube, but what do we look under? LaSalle, city of LaSalle?
If you go to youtube.com and search for the city of LaSalle, look for the symbol, the seal, you can click on live streams and it'll be viewable there.
All city council meetings.
Thanks. Okay.
Sure are.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that, John, if you didn't ask the question, it's a good question.
Yeah, for me,
Been a lot of good
yeah,
questions.
what would it take for you to act?
well, I feel bad for a lot of the people out there, and I'm happy I wasn't on this committee in 18, because I travel that road a lot. I don't live very far from there. I'm fairly close. And I travel up that road. I now avoid it. It's almost the same on Route 6. You know, it's getting really bad out there too, on Route 6. But like I said, I think there's got to be ways to cut down on the maybe better equipment, something to help these people out. Because the dust is really bad up there. I mean, and then I personally worked in a factory that worked with the same type of materials, and I know the hazards. I have bad lungs myself, so
You know, I feel for those people out there. And that's my main reason for it. I just, you know, I know how important it is to run the business, but you have to think about the people nearby the business too. And do whatever you can to just prevent your byproduct from getting all over their property.
I mean, I agree with both of them. I mean, just lost my train of thought. You do have to think about the people that do live by you. I mean, I grew up by Lone Star in Oglesby, so I mean, I get where they're coming from. Of course, I was young, but you know, I heard my parents complain about the dust and everything on their cars. I mean, I get where they're coming from. So you know, we do have to think about them. So I mean, if they're gonna do something to help them, then yeah, I'll change my vote. I mean, if I was in that situation, I'd feel the same way.
We were told in 2018 they're gonna make things better. Didn't happen.
I mean, you're not gonna make everybody happy all the time. I mean, that's just, unfortunately, that's just not how life works.
Like I say, I think, once again, you could give no recommendation, but that's not our job. Our job is to give a recommendation. So you have to be ready to act sometime here, even if you vote no.
Well, that was
Right.
my other question. Somebody mentioned going to the corporate office, wherever that's at. If some of this stuff had to go to the corporate office, how long would you need? Could you do it in a week, 2 weeks?
Yes, I mean, in terms of, there's certain things that, like there's discussion about potential moving the wheel wash. We'd have to, I mean, I probably wouldn't have let's put it this way, that's obviously, we have to look and figure out what that would look like, and that's gonna take a little bit of time.
Sure.
And somebody mentioned potential new technology. I'm not aware of much different than what we have out there that's available, but I'm not saying it isn't. But there's where if we're gonna do something with that, the funding would need to, I need to at least get need a week or something to get a green light that, yes, we could do something there. May not approval for the dollars in that instant, but, you know, saying, yes, we can commit to X.
I agree with all the comments. You guys have been really professional. The folks out there have been also. So I want to give you enough time, because I don't know what the time frame of this thing is. But I understand there's a kind of a rush on it. Not a rush, but.
Well, I think they would like it to decide if it can be as quick as possible. The important thing is to get it right, get the plan commission to make its decision, whether it agrees or doesn't agree, fairly, and has the information it says available. If you want to do a motion to reconsider and vote tonight, you can. If you don't, then I think we don't really have a lot of alternative right now, but to recess and reconvene for a short time. If you guys can come up with your answers within a couple of weeks, depending on whether we could recess and reconvene to February 10th, which is 2 weeks from tonight. Because I sensed that, you know, they would like to.
Tom, I'd like to make a motion to reconvene.
Well, wait till we see what.
At their convenience.
Hang on 1 second. The ball's in your court, it seems, Eric and John. I mean, if I'm wrong, correct me.
You want to take a couple minutes to step outside and talk, or can you say it now?
Right here. That's a good one, kind of one, design, whatever, but, I think they're looking for a little more realistic. And do that, and we do that. Everything is really that might address the concerns. Which I really, yes, it's something we can do. 2 weeks into that, but, then they also probably have to have a hearing notice and other things. Push that.
No. If we set the time now, we don't have to republish it.
That's right. That's the advantage of recessing and reconvening now. We do not have to publish again. We could recess and reconvene to a date that's convenient. We'd also like to ask this, everybody that's here tonight, doesn't mean that somebody else who isn't here couldn't still show up then, but we'd ask everyone that's here tonight to make sure they can make it back the next date. So we would be pretty locked in on that date, and we'd be locked in now. We wouldn't have to publish and further delay.
Yeah, I guess my biggest concern right now is I can commit to this, or that, but I'm not sure that's gonna really be everything that needs to be addressed or whatever would need to be concerns, so.
Well, I don't think-
That's what I hate doing. I don't like, you know what I'm saying?
I don't think you need to address everything. Just show some additional, what you currently are doing, just so show some more that you could like to do.
I understand that. I guess what I meant is there's certain things we can say, hey, we can commit to this, this, and this, but I'm not sure without that'll be the holistic of what would be satisfactory. So that's why I need to, you know.
There's some, I mean, the short-term
There's-
things are obvious.
Yeah.
We can agree, as I said, we can agree on excited, we can go meet with West, or we can.
Right.
And I've been out there, I've got pictures. of the
That's
house,
great.
I've got pictures of their siding.
Yeah.
And I think when they're
That's good.
committing, I think they can commit to experimenting with more water. They can try to mix it all up.
Sure.
They can't promise that that's gonna work, but I think that right now, they would make a commitment to, experimenting more and maybe increasing communication with people there.
That's a good point.
Having, let's say, once they can start using the water, start doing that and maybe have another meeting in spring with everybody not here, I mean, just
Right.
set up some meeting someplace.
Right.
And say, is this working any better?
Yeah.
They're willing to go along with that program. I think they're willing to go back to corporate and discuss moving the wheel well, right?
Yeah.
Wheel wash. Right now, I'm getting that they can commit to experimenting with different ideas, and willing to take calls from anybody who said, who has ideas, like, hey, did you try this? I thought of this, whatever, listen to those people. If it's
All good
reasonable
points.
trying that, I think they're willing to go back to corporate and see what permission they can get. So if that's what it would take to get a vote here, I think they can make that commitment right now.
I can say too, to add to one of their suggestions was the water on the room sweepers. After I met with them, I think it was October or November, that was it, you guys, that was the directions that we gave our employees at that point. And that was based on a conversation with people kindness. Terry, she's not here tonight, so.
Eric, of all the things that were mentioned to help the problem, is moving the wheel wash the only one that you couldn't commit to tonight?
That's a pretty broad statement, Mr.
You,
Chair.
you know, you could commit to pressure washing their house, once every year, once every other year. You can always use water on the street sweeper, not in a freezing weather, but we'll never go out through the gate unless we got water in there, because that helps the dust down. And
The room sweeper is relatively new, it's around a year old. Not the rotary room, the actual one that vacuums it up. It's intelligent, similar to what the city employs, both Brew and Salle have. That was a hefty investment.
And I think they're committed to being open to anything that Brian comes up with, any ideas he has.
I think one point that everyone's gotta take away, if you ever work for corporate, corporates will appropriate money in their programs, but it's when they wanna give it to you to get the job done. So you can't hold these guys at this level responsible to do something when it's corporate's decision. Corporate makes the decision when it gets done.
Whether should help them, it's a different thing, isn't it?
I understand that, but they don't make that decision. That's corporate. Those,
I'm sure somebody else will probably be looking at the video on YouTube as well.
Are the people in the audience, do you feel somewhat comfortable that they are gonna help the problem, the current problem? Or do you need a whole list of what they're gonna do for you?
Let's see if they have to say in 2 weeks.
We pretty much said what they're gonna do. I mean, that's pretty much all.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Are they comfortable with that?
If they say no, which means they're not gonna be comfortable in 2 weeks, no matter what we come back.
Then you can go ahead and vote, in my opinion, because you already know what's gonna happen in 2 weeks.
We just heard one person say, does anybody else feel a little bit more comfortable, or?
Well, I'd like to see that you're doing, but if you follow it through, I think it's the big.
You were told this in 2018 and it fell through on.
Dust monitors, I think for sure. Just that towns actually help with this. I read some really disturbing things online, and I'd encourage anybody here to look up, dangerous and limestone dust on the computer. It's very disturbing.
If they're not gonna feel any more comfortable with these actions you're gonna take, then you might as well, my opinion, vote tonight.
So, I could add one more thing.
Yes, Eric.
Not what we talked about here, we talked about doing the quarterly meetings before, and it kind of fell by the wayside. This is a pretty close-knit group of neighbors. I know a few, I know that, I understand that. I would offer up that I would go to them once a month right now until we either have stuff resolved.
I can accept that.
He's sitting next to me, he's. Yeah, I have no problem doing that either. So, I mean, if I was in once, I can make it more frequent, or if it's every other month is appropriate. And I don't care if it's door to door, or if we put vows, we go sit and talk through stuff, and what they've seen that's improved, not improved. What we can do to do better. Well, I mean,
Would somebody wanna make, Larry, would you like to make the motion again to act tonight?
Sure.
Make your motion to reconsider and reconsider the prior decision and to go forward with the vote tonight.
Can I ask their thoughts real quick? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Really.
No.
I wanna ask their thoughts too, because it's, you guys that we're addressing.
If you make a commitment to be with us every month, I will be pretty much.
Is that a good start?
And if you try to follow through on some of this.
Dust is bad. I mean, it's every day, just dust. And I spend a lot of time outside.
I'll spend some time with you. That's a question again.
I talked to my lawyer, and like what this gentleman said earlier, because what my lawyer said is, your value of your store and your home are gonna be nothing at this point because of Illinois cement, and you gotta accept it. Because they bring up points that they are going to help you through to make it easier. And make sure that you get it in writing. That's all my lawyer said.
Property values are as important as you know.
I wanna challenge you to an alternative method of blasting, instead of blasting.
I think they said they tried that.
They haven't tried it. We still have blasting, and it affects the whole ecology of the area.
Eric, you did say you tried it to begin with, didn't work.
There was a service finder in operation. There was a service finder there that was invested in. It was used.
I'd be satisfied with meeting, but also the gentleman sitting up there, I forget your name.
Me?
Yeah,
John Sinkowitz?
when John was up there, John would come by, how you doing, how's everything going? It made you feel okay. He would stop by our houses, you need anything, how's everything going? He had a little consideration, that went far away with me as a neighbor.
I shouldn't offer him up without being here, but my court supervisor, he's a good guy. I can get him introduced to you guys as well.
He just took the initiative, did it on his own or as part of the company to keep relationship good with the neighbors. And I appreciated that.
Thank you.
No, I mean, honestly, I'm sitting here, I'm a local person, I don't know, it doesn't matter in this case, but it just a sympathize with the people sitting behind me. I would ask that the people that are sitting here across from us, if we offer this up and we move forward, call us up back in a year. Brian will, I know he will, I call you a lot. He keeps up with it. I would ask the mayor and the city to keep up and say, hey, a year from now, you're still doing this.
So I think a major step sounds like more communication.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That they can commit. And experimenting with more water.
Running the what I would call a Pelican or Elgin sweeper.
Yes.
Is that better than the broom?
The white one's definitely better than the broom.
So if we
The white
made
sweeper.
sure we had additional people trained to run that on the evening shift, would that improve or help things? I guess it's a question.
Yeah, they don't run the sweepers at night very often, they come through 2 or 3 times a night.
Is there danger with one of those at night? Because you're going down the road slow and it's dark? I don't know.
They bring the yellow one out.
I mean, they run the brooms with the other broom.
They run one time, they push it right into the ship, comes through one time. About 3 times a night.
I can't give you an answer whether it'd be better, it's just trial and error. We'd have to try it, and if it's better, then it's getting better.
The white one's better.
That's what I'm asking about if we were in that on the lights.
All right. There's a lot of good suggestions. Commitment.
Yeah.
Good idea. Hey, Brian, what's just said?
I want to make one last comment. Remember President Reagan? Trust but verify? So I'm asking, if you went and bought a used car and they said, we'll give you 50,000 mile warranty, would you drive off without getting something in writing? Because you wouldn't get the damn warranty. So all I'm saying is, these people should have something on paper. Because once you get the permit, once you get the zoning, there's no recourse for these people, none whatsoever. And I don't think that's too much to ask. It's okay. Here's the 6 things we'll do for you. There's nothing else. This is it. They know where they stand. We've got something we can look at.
Well, how do you count how many times the sweeper goes down the road?
No, nothing like that, but what they'll commit to do. Are they gonna wash the house once a year?
Okay.
Okay? Are they gonna clean the roadside? The muck out of it?
Well,
So on.
And that should come right from corporate. Not
Well,
local.
they already said they have the authority to act on those issues.
If they can sign a legal document that says they can do this, this, and this, fine. I don't care where it comes from, but like I say, something that we know they're committed to and they're gonna have to do it.
So I don't recall the last report, but I know some of the conditions attached to the last round were well agreements documented that has to be open and offered. That was one of the conditions. A monthly meeting, without that being a condition whatsoever.
Listen, I'm all for Savant, I'm all for employment, you know, we need that, so it makes the town go, but these people need something.
Mr. Rostich?
I was just gonna say, the suggestions you had are good. But you were saying, well, why don't we just vote on it? They got the authority to make these decisions. They always said when you ask questions, I don't have the authority to do this. We're gonna have to check higher.
Well, they didn't,
They said that right here.
Well, there's a
They-
They said that right here.
well, there's a
They-
difference between committing their time, committing what they're doing now, to doing what they're doing now better, more often, different things, using more water on the same machine that they have, doing it on the midnight shift, all those things they have. They don't have the authority to go out and commit moving a wheel wash. That's gonna cost a lot of money, it's gonna take time to get. The other things are just doing better and more frequently what they've been doing, and also the big one, communication, so they get instant feedback from the people that they're doing it. Okay, we started using more water, we started doing this, this, and this, is it working? Someone will say, no, but maybe do this, get their input on a constant, basis. Those things they don't need corporate approval because that's in their job now.
I agree, I think we should get something in writing. It fell through last time.
I don't think they have an objection to putting those things in
No,
writing,
If
yeah.
you want to do those now, you can incorporate those as conditions to your vote.
Okay, we're back to Larry. Do you want to
Make the motion.
make a motion to,
Make a motion to reconsider and
The-
reconsider the decision not to
Previous-
act tonight and to change that to go forward with action tonight. Let's see if it passes.
Make a motion to come back tonight and act on this,
Reconsider.
Reconsider
The previous vote
vote
and change it
and change it
to go forward with action tonight.
with action tonight.
Let's see if
Okay.
it passes or not.
right, somebody second that?
Can I just say
Or
one
question,
thing?
yeah, question, John?
I just want to say one thing to these guys. From being in that same position that they're in right now, I'm sure these guys are doing everything on their level that they can do with the tools that they can go out and get. I think what they need to do is go to corporate and say, it isn't working, we need more help. If the alternative is moving a wheel wash, so be it. But I just want to say these guys being there, they're doing everything they can for what they got to work with. And believe me, I feel for the community also, but on these guys here, the position they're in, they're doing everything they can. And maybe they need to run that sweeper a little bit longer, but I think in the long run, the alternative is to move that wheel wash, and that would probably be a big help. But I just want to say, knowing these guys and working out there at their level, they're doing everything they can.
Okay,
Need a second.
just,
You don't know if you're-
somebody want to,
I'll second.
you'll second Larry's motion. Okay, Amy left. Gotta put the kids to bed or what?
I think
Brett,
she
you're the
did.
guy now?
Unfortunately, I will take us further here. We're good for a call now.
Roll
So,
call vote.
Commissioner Fletcher,
Based on what you gentlemen said, I'll change my vote to yes.
Commissioner Happ,
Yes.
Commissioner Girton,
Yes.
Commissioner Nizlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Cleary,
Yes.
Commissioner McNeely,
Yes.
Commissioner Sienkiewicz,
Yes.
7-0.
Okay. Now, does somebody want to make a motion either for or against their, yes, Eric?
Can I offer one more thing? I'm not sure the progress of this. Did you guys make a recommendation either way? Does this go to the next council meeting?
Yes.
Is that a week away?
Well, it goes to the council. What meeting it will be at, we'll have to check and see for sure.
So I want one more thing to add to the list of a few things we added here, is that, I believe there's at least 3 individuals here. Lori with the pet shop, John and Kathy, and then, Jim, that I would dedicate that we will meet with them at least an initial meeting before the council meeting. Not gonna say what we'll agree to at that point, but we will meet.
At least you'll meet with them.
Which means if it's in a week,
I hope after this, get it done, and we got one we're gonna get together.
We can include that in the motion, Jim, that they meet or no?
I'm sorry, Jim's gonna get that.
Well, no,
You guys got it.
if you're going to put specific things in that they're going to do, then we would need a list of those. And if you're going to trust them on their good faith, then you don't need a list of those.
Alright.
You could trust them on their good faith, and the council will have the benefit of this, and they have their come up with a list that looks decent, or the council may not pass it anyway, even if the commission does. So you have discretion both ways.
I would think
John?
saying that, if he didn't do that the next week,
Then the council's not gonna pass
I
it.
mean, I would think you're gonna look like an idiot.
Yeah, okay, John. Alright,
I would make sure you guys are, they come see you.
okay. Now, does somebody wanna make a motion either for or against their petition?
I make a motion for their,
Alright, Jim, do you have it for
I
him?
do.
Thank you, Jim.
I thought we just voted on it.
No, no,
Well, that was just.
we voted that we're gonna vote. Yeah, that was the vote to say we're gonna vote, John.
Alright.
the motion is, I hereby move that regarding the petition of Frank L. Bedinko, individually as trustee under a trust agreement dated August 21st, 2021, owner in Illinois Cement Company LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, holder of an option to purchase in regards to parcels 1, 2, 3, and 4 as described on the map, and that we have been discussing that we find the granting of the rezoning from M1 to M2 and granting of a special use permit for both mining operations and related endeavors would be overall complement with the parameters of the law.
Compliant with the parameters of the law.
It's St. Hyson's. You went there. Including but not limited to the LaSalle zoning ordinance for such a zoning change in regard to the granting of a special use permit, including and not being limited to being in the public good consent and purposes of the comprehensive plan, similar to that which has been discussed, and that we further recommend the City of LaSalle Council approval to award of M2 zoning and granting of a special use permit for mining operations and related endeavors, subject to petitioner's agreement that the premises not be used for R4 multifamily dwelling as defined and interpreted by the LaSalle zoning ordinance, absent further approval by the LaSalle Planning Commission and or City Council. Also, subject to Illinois Cement obtaining the title to the property, and also subject to the other provisions as the City Council should deem just and appropriate in the circumstances. Now, do we need to add something about their, in a general statement, about their agreement with the?
How are you gonna state it without being specific? That's what I said earlier, if you're gonna
Okay.
trust them on good faith, or
I
you're
think
gonna
we
be
gotta-
specific.
I think, yeah.
You can
You
be
have to
specific,
trust
but
them.
then you have to add them.
Right.
You can't just say in general what was discussed. There were many things that were discussed here. Some may not even be conceptually doable.
Okay.
So you can't make it contingent on that. You either gotta trust them on the good faith, and go forward and vote that way, based on their representations here, which will be available on YouTube for the public to view if they don't go forward, or alternatively, you can list them and have those as additional conditions, which is appropriate. It's up to the plan commission
Yeah.
as to how they want to do it. If you want to add them, then we gotta make a list.
And you plan on meeting before the council meeting, John, or?
Well, he was gonna meet with certain people.
Okay. All right. So if at the council meeting, you know, the people are there and said, hey, Eric never called me, then the council will know. All right,
Let's put on the record who you had said you were gonna meet with.
So John, Kathy, Jim, and Lori to start with. And then.
Can we, you could use the microphone just so we have that.
I'm gonna meet with John and Kathy Bastock, and then Jim, and then Lori for Eddie's Pet Shop as well.
okay. Does everybody understand the motion? If there's no question, would somebody like to second the motion? Sam? John?
Second.
Any other discussion on the question?
Okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner Happ,
Yes.
Commissioner Gerton,
Yes.
Commissioner Nizlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Cleary,
Yes.
Commissioner McNeely,
Yes.
Commissioner Sienkiewicz,
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher.
Yes.
7-0.
Okay, we passed unanimous. They'll let you know what meeting it'll be at, okay?
I think it was a good meeting.
Thank everyone, and as I say, I hope, you end up being very happy. You were a tremendous audience, whatever we're calling you. All right? Thank you.
Make a meeting to adjourn.
Wait 1 second. Anything else coming down the pipe that you know of?
Not at this time.
Well, yeah, there is, but not that we can.
Nothing imminent. Okay, John.
Meeting to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, planning commission.